strangers, but they stay fools. I'll break the chains, take the pain to save you. Save you. Baby, I've been high and low. All the feelings I won't show. It's better if I let you go. You'll be better off alone. Pretty little fears I got, second guessing every shot. I won't lie, no I won't lie. I'm free but now I'm lost. Freedom comes at a cost. I won't lie, not this time. It's better if I let you go. You'll be better off alone. Ain't nothing we haven't tried. I'll sing you one last goodbye, and I won't think twice. So, ready or not, I'll go. I'm setting you free for sure right now. Don't ask me how.
Thought I had her in a loose-leaf grip, thought I'd take my time. She keeps calling and she just won't quit, and we all know why. Screws tried to lure me right into an affidavit. Remind me as I'm falling and I'm out of time. I'm caught up in your tongue, they say. You claim that you love me, but it's just another play. I'm stuck inside your room all day. You say it's for my safety, but I'm just one of your prey. She's got a gun and a bag and she's waiting for you. She has the time to decide how she's gonna kill you. You can keep running, keep your eyes wide open, but you never see it coming, no use. She's got a gun and a bag and she's waiting for you. She's got a gun and a bag and she's waiting for you. Hidden kisses always felt so sweet that they left me blind. Making promises we just can't keep, and it felt so right. Screws tried to lure me right into an affidavit. Remind me as I'm falling and I'm out of time. I'm caught up in your tongue, they say. You claim that you love me, but it's just another play. I'm stuck inside your room all day. You say it's for my safety, but I'm just one of your prey. She's got a gun and a bag and she's waiting for you. She has the time to decide how she's gonna kill you. You can keep running, keep your eyes wide open, but you'll never see it coming, no She's got a gun and a bag and she's waiting for you.
Hello and welcome into this week's broadcast of the Esports Tower Rumble in Overwatch. We are broadcasting it live from the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena. And last week, after an exciting change-up in the Week 3 Overwatch, which was running on Overwatch 2 5v5 servers, the Rumbles are back to the standard 6v6 Overwatch for the Week 4 Rumble. I'm your host, Colby D'Angelo Alloway, and joining me to call all of the action is Brenner Bear. And so I do have to ask, what should we expect from teams going from the 5v5 Overwatch 2 kind of competitive testing, we coined it, to now back to the 6v6 that we all know and have come to expect from Overwatch?
Yeah, so they had to really change their mindsets heading over to the 5v5 because it was play around your one tank, keep them alive, and all-out brawls, keep your healers alive, because as soon as the main heals went down, that was a lot of the times the fight was over, but teams just continued fighting because it was a very brawl-heavy from what we saw of that 2 weeks in the Esports Tower. So now going back over to the 6v6, it's going to be a lot more of that more traditional Overwatch. If they could play a little bit more aggressively and sustain in the fights longer. So, but I should see some more clean-cut fights rather than just consistent elimination after elimination. It might just be more of, you know, eliminate 2 healers and a tank, and that's the end of the fight. Or a lot of the times it is just 2 healers, that's the end of the fight. So we should see teams playing a little bit more tightly together, essentially because now they have 2 frontliners rather than just the one. So the target prioritization might be a little bit different, and back to what we traditionally see. So these teams should probably be playing a lot more comfortably than we saw them with. It changed a lot of things up, so now they get to go back to the heroes they know and love.
And with the swap back to the 6v6, how do you expect that to impact support play in particular?
I mean, it's definitely not going to be all on one tank for sure, because, I mean, that was the huge focus, is keep frontline alive and you can stay in the fight. So DPS will get a lot more of that healing love this time around. And I also think the healers can play a little bit more freely. They don't have to play so conservative and defensive because they only have the one frontliner to defend themselves against. So they'll definitely have a little bit more breathing room. But of course, still being 6v6, they have to watch out for the DPS, who are also vice versa going to be playing more freely because they know the tank line can immediately swap over and support them because there's 2 of them now. So it can still easily be, you know, the 3-3 split that we've seen before. So it's going to be the return to a lot more traditional Overwatch from the Overwatch 2, even as we have our very own Matt Merck on stage playing Overwatch 2. So.
Oh, yeah, the beta did just come out today, so it is interesting to go back to the 6v6. And let's see how Brenner's advice compares to Doc's keys to the game, which we have for Overwatch here tonight in this Week 4 Rumble. And Doc's keys to the game in Overwatch is to... Doc's keys to the game, in Overwatch is to never take a fair fight, which means you want to take fights in unexpected places when they are unprepared, and you need to pay attention to your tempo. And Doc's keys to the game are presented today by Esports Tower, so you score pro advice at esportstower.com. Improve your game sense, improve your team play, and improve your performance under pressure. You'll get matched with great players and professional coaches to help you rank up. So Doc's keys to the game in Overwatch, which is the callback to the 5v5, which was last week, but you need to position your supports. Tanks and DPS need to move together. You need to know the new cooldowns, and tempo wins maps. And these keys to the game will actually be helping Matt Merck the most in the Overwatch 2 beta back there. Doc's keys to the game, still presented to you by Esports Tower. And you need to score pro advice at esportstower.com. Improve your game sense, improve your team play, and your performance under pressure. You'll get matched with great players and professional coaches to help you rank up. So this is what Matt Merck is playing off of. The rest of us are still back in the Overwatch 6v6 where you have an off tank to peel for your supports. Is there anything you're expecting from the matchup tonight with the Wolves versus the Cyclones?
I mean, we've seen both of these teams in the past 2 weeks, but we've never seen them together. We saw the Wolves last week, the Cyclones 2 weeks ago. The Cyclones had a pretty good debut, but I don't believe they came out of it with a win, whereas the Wolves, I think, did. So the Cyclones are definitely going to be having a little bit more of an uphill battle, especially with the huge change for both these teams. Cyclones having a little bit more time to kind of recuperate, having a week off. So heading into this week, I expect it to be a pretty even matchup, but also the huge kicker to this is we're starting off with a best of 7.
Oh, yeah.
So these teams are going to be in it for a long time. And a huge coin of this is in a best of 7, we are not having assault whatsoever. So we're going the entire matchup of control, escort, hybrid, control. I don't know where it goes after that.
Escort, hybrid, and
probably
tiebreaker would be control.
So there you go. Oh, but it's a long, I mean, even after playing a best of 7, and then we have 2 more series after this with, it could be either of the teams, I don't know just yet. So after playing a best of 7 and then playing 2 more series, which are both best of 3s, I mean, these teams could definitely start feeling the fatigue because, I mean, after a best of 7, you'd think that would close out the night. But no, we're starting with as we take a look at the teams.
So the first matchup tonight is, again, the Wolves versus the Cyclones. It's a best of 7, just like we were talking about. First map will be Control on Busan. And the Wolves and Cyclones are actually doing a show match. That's why it's so many maps long. The Wolves have 2 new players from Meridian Tech, 2 of their more dominant players that everybody tends to notice. And they've been working on communication and team setups as we go against this. And then the Cyclones have been focusing a lot on ball comp. So that should be super, super interesting. And the Holy Chub and BBQ have really stepped up as in-game leaders. For the rest of our matches tonight, we will have match 2, which is a best of 3, Tornadoes versus the Riptides, and then match 3 will be the Tornadoes versus the Everests, the grudge match that we saw last week, because it was the Everests that finally lost an Esports Tower Rumble to the Tornadoes and one of their old players, which is Bonesaw. So you should be sure to stick around for that later tonight. But first, let's get into this best of 7 show match.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, we're kicking it off on Busan, so it's really going to be eyes on Dark on this Widowmaker to try to get those early picks, or even BBQ to try to burn down King Swifter's shield, because yes, the D.Va can eat up a lot of DPS for those 2 seconds that she has the defense matrix, but Junkrat is that all-out artillery piece, and they still have to worry about both the Holy Chub and Sweatpants on the Sigma Orisa Wombo combo. Seems like they're going to both be going for that kind of earlier team fight over here by the drum as well, trying to contest for that high ground, but already some early damage coming out.
Teams are seeking each other out. It looks like the drum is going to be this first confrontation piece. Neither team has gotten any eliminations so far. Firestrike's going to come out. BBQ is half. They need to get some healing. Holy Chub is weak, which is going to force them to have to back up, and that's just what King Squiffer needed. They're going to walk in, and Eternal Flame's going to get those first 2 picks, and the Cyclones even have members capping the point. So the ET Wolves actually have got point percentage, or they've completely lost the fight and lost the point percentage, excuse me.
Yeah, so last little bit of cleanup as the Wolves will finally resecure the point. They definitely went for the long rotate around as they eliminated the first 2 members of the Cyclones of the Sigma and then the Zenyatta, and then rotated to point. So yes, the Cyclones got that early 9%, but now the Wolves have a pretty good foothold here. This is where we want to see them get pretty aggressive, take maybe an early pick or so, especially with the Zenyatta and Sigma coming out so early. They could have even gotten extra aggressive and tried to get that pick to just give them that leg up in the fight, because taking down the secondary heals is such an advantage, but losing Eternal Flame like that can cost them here.
And so they are starting this fight down 1, now down 2. You almost think that's down 3. Dark is just popping off. That is 3 remaining members of the Wolves to defend this point, and I think they're just going to get out, understandably so.
Yeah, once he got that pick onto the Baptiste, it was the end of the fight for the Wolves. They just had to back off, especially losing the 2 members beforehand. Then BBQ's trying to follow him up, taking out the off-tank and the secondary heals. they just had the target prioritization correct. I mean, first taking out the Cole Cassidy, who is kind of that long-range engager for the DPS line because the Mei's Icicles can only do so much. And so Dark really popping off on this Widow is exactly what the Cyclones needed to come back and take this point, closing the gap on the percentage with 30 to 43.
32 and climbing to 43 as the Sigma ultimate is going to come out as a great initiation. Nobody is able to get out of that. That is BBQ with a double elimination off the back of that Sigma, ultimate, and BBQ is just going to go ahead and clean that fight up, though it looks like Sweatpants is maybe the prize as the remaining members of the Wolves try to get out and get staggered for their efforts.
I mean, that's a trade you take any day of the week. A Sigma for the entire team of the Wolves with BBQ just getting a quad there, and only the single ultimate commit from the Sweatpants on the Gravitic Flux is a huge win for the Cyclones, but now they have to watch out for the Wolves coming in with 5 ults, soon to be 6, with King Swifter being the last little straggler. So BBQ opening up with the tire is going to be looking for both the Baptiste and the Lucio here, or the Zenyatta.
Trying to get his pathing over the wall there, trying to hit it unexpectedly. It only had 29 HP, so it didn't end up getting there.
Yeah, it was a good attempt, but he immediately tries to go for the re-engage and try to pick someone off, but this time the Wolves are going to engage with the Blizzard.
That's a lot of ults coming out, and the bomb is actually going to be the one that gets the value onto Baptiste, and that is your main tank and your main healer down. You got to think that's maybe a fight win.
Yeah, and they're just going to continue that push forward, pick up BBQ as well, which just helps them buy that much more time, but they're going to have to rotate around and deal with the last 2 stragglers as they clean things up. I mean, a really good engagement. Only using 2 ultimates, winning the fight, and just continuing that pressure forward and taking space is exactly what you want to see here from the Wolves. And a pick onto Dark just denies them that push that much longer. Bit of an overcommit on that supercharger. King
Swiffer's looking in to go with that Shatter, and Delirious and Sweatpants are down, so King Swiffer just doesn't have a leg to stand on as most of his team is going to go down. The Wolves really need to use that Shatter this next fight going in.
Yeah, you saw he was looking for the Shatter, but the Orisa both had, the gold mode on. They had thrown down the shield to block it out, and he got burned down. Here I thought the supercharger was going to be the fall of him, and it just capitalized. And now with the rock coming into Daydream's face, the Wolves are not looking good for this fight.
Shatter's still coming out. He hasn't found the good opportunity. Is going to get Sigma ulted in the air, and this could prevent that big ultimate that they were looking for as King Swiffer is going to go down, but Delirious is down as well. Now that is both healers down for the side of the Cyclones and their main tank, so even though the Wolves lost King Swiffer, they might still be in this just because they were able to pick both supports.
Yeah, BBQ could not close the distance with that tire either to get the elimination both onto the Diva and the Soldier, which is a good swap coming out from the Wolves to deny the value that Dark was getting as they do the last-minute swaps over to the Tracer, but the Wolves take it, which is huge value, especially on that first map, but poor old King Swifter never got to use that Shatter.
And he ultimately didn't need to. It really feels bad if you're not able to get the ultimate out when you look for it 3 fights in a row, excuse me, and you're not able to get it just because you're eliminated. First to a Sigma ultimate, first to just getting outright eliminated, second to a Sigma ultimate. That's just unfortunate. What are you expecting from the swaps coming out right now?
I mean, we briefly mentioned the Cyclones have definitely been working on communication, and you brought up the ball comp for one of these teams.
Yeah.
We have yet to see, surprisingly, if they've been working on, and this is a great map to do so, but of course, this has kind of been the go-to map for this more open area, and especially with BBQ on the Reaper, he's going to be the close one to watch to eliminate that front line of the Wolves and get into the back line, so it's going to be up to Hoop to really try to slow him down, both literally and figuratively.
The first fight's going to engage. The Wolves are on the point, forcing the Cyclones to come to them. Maywall's going to come down, making that a little bit harder. BBQ's going to go down for his efforts. They're rotating not as a team, and the Wolves are definitely capitalizing on that, but have thus far been unable to find. Oh my gosh! The Holy Chop is just going to pop off and flip that fight.
Yeah, he even did that real quick. That's the sad side of the Wolves, as they were playing really close to that edge, and Holy Chub saw his opportunity and took it. And Eternal Flame is there to even clean up, and the Wolves still come out of it on top, though, with Cyclones just losing way too many members, having to back off. So Wolves just having the better target prioritization there. So now Cyclones changing up a little bit with now BBQ and the Junkrats trying to burn down that main shield so he can get the fight engage.
As the Sweatpants is going to go down, main tank, never what you're looking for to just go down first. So at this point, the Wolves are pushing in, but without their Reinhardt, this is a little bit tricky, even as the Cyclones fall back.
Yeah, they had to fall back. Without a main tank, no I mean, they're trying to go for a mirror match right now, just with the DPS being the difference here, and it seems that the Wolves are pulling away because they have that more wall-and-wall brawl comp that we've coined as Boise State of just throw up the May wall, call your target, go in on them. They did that with Sweatpants, and I expect them to do it here again as the rotation's around and he's all by himself.
Big Maywall's going to come out, splitting Sweatpants from the rest of their team. Kinsweeper's going to go in. Tactical Visor is committed, but can't see anything just yet. Is still looking for it, though. Baby Diva's out of mech. They'll finally get the Holy Chub. And as Sweatpants, Dark, and BBQ all go down, that is a really, really nice fight. The Wolves collapsed and did a good job.
Yeah, 2 ults for the cost of a self-destruct from the side of Cyclones is honestly good conversion for the Wolves coming out of that fight with the weight. And the Cyclones tried to line of sight that both the Amplification Matrix and the sights, but at the end we're getting pressured from too many angles, had to get forced into it. So now they're going for the far rotate of the wall came out but couldn't cut them off, now engaging with the Blizzard.
Soup is going to miss that wall and go down with the aggressive Blizzard, which actually costs the Wolves some aggression, as King Swifter's going to go down without that May support and without the Baptiste support as well. You got to think that's fight for the Wolves.
Yeah, it definitely should be, especially after losing the main heals. So now it's just going to be all-out stall and point to build up to at least 99 as we see Eternal Flame get taken down. But the Cyclones had the rotations exactly where they needed to. They took the fight on the indoors, and sadly, Soup got eliminated after throwing out the Blizzard, so they couldn't capitalize on it either. Cyclones playing that very tightly as they were moving together as a group, which is something we saw them struggle with in that first team fight.
BBQ's looking for that tire on the high ground. Hopefully the Wolves will be able to spot him out before going back. But with 99%, they have a little bit to make some mistakes and get tired from the high
Also,
ground.
they have 5 ultimates built up to the Wolves too, and now with the trap being triggered, they know where the rotation's coming from, so immediately make that rotation.
Ooh.
But with BBQ going down, that's no tire.
Shatter's going to come out too, as well as the Amplification Matrix, and that is completely an unhelpful Amplification Matrix as of right now. Darts is just going to get mowed down. I see what he was trying to do there, but it just didn't work with the Diva in his face.
Yeah, he went for it. He just never pulled the trigger as he just got burned down that quickly. And a cheeky Maywall from Soup to deny the sides as the respawns just came out for the Cyclones a bit too late there, but Wolves had a great re-engage there.
What's the biggest thing that you could isolate that the Cyclones need to do to take maps off of the Wolves before we go into our next map?
I mean, they have the target prioritization down. It's just they had an issue committing to the team comp first when they lost very early on, especially that huge Diva play off the edge was a huge swing for the Wolves. So the Cyclones, I would hope to see better ult usage, because that's something we touched on of King Swifter having an issue with the Shatter, but then the Cyclones came back. So hopefully we see a bit more, I don't want to say like, you want to see them use it more, but you don't want to see them use it more recklessly.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, you want to see them get value of it, but if you're in that situation of King Swifter, like, he was getting the Gravitic Flux on him, got eliminated, then the first time he just got straight up eliminated. If you get a Shatter onto one person, especially a person who has their ult built up, that's huge value. And I had the miscast where I thought they were overcommitting with the Supercharger, and then it worked for them and they got the elimination. If they can keep capitalizing on the Wolves getting overly aggressive, as we saw just in the theater on that last map on Busan, I think the Cyclones can easily take it here. They just need to be playing tighter together and not be getting cut off in those rotations by the May wall. And on Gibraltar, that's a perfect map to do it because May doesn't really fit here.
Neither does the Reinhardt, which I feel like was one of the big things that the Cyclones were struggling with, because even if they would get the elimination on the Reinhardt has already taken all of that space that the Cyclones really needed to try to get the value.
This time the ball comp is... Oh, he hovered on it for a second. I hoped for it, but...
He's thinking...
Ooh.
There you go.
The thought process is going through his mind, but also... The Wolves bringing out Sweatpants with no Pocket Mercy is a bit of a dangerous move, so they're going to have to be playing pretty defensively. But an early elimination onto Soup, who is a bit way too cheeky up forward, could cost his team this first archway.
Sweatpants doesn't need no Pocket Mercy, looking for that elimination. Actually, is just going to full commit, not get value with the beam because of the shield. This is a little bit dangerous for Sweatpants. They will be forced to back out and actually just get eliminated.
Proof in the pudding. Yeah, he got too aggressive, and this time with the Hanzo Pocket Mercy will come out in stride, but the main tank going down could be a huge swing for the Wolves, continuing their push forward as surprisingly
They're just going to let the res come out.
I mean, yeah, that's the big perk of having the Mercy, especially in defense for Gibraltar, is denying that long respawn walk timer, especially on King Swifter of all people on that Orisa for the main frontline tank. So Wolves now going for a re-engage as Shadow Soul's looking for that pick onto the Mercy. He's just waiting to get the hack on and deal the damage. Definitely missing the Overwatch 2 Somber right now.
So far, the hack is not going to come out and actually doesn't even land it on anybody, and so just gets eliminated by Soup losing the duel. Because of this, the Wolves are able to take the high ground and just have the opportunity to hard engage into the Cyclones as they all drop. The tanks have been split from their supports. With that, the Holy Chub and Sweatpants are both going to go down. The Wolves are just being, or the Cyclones, excuse me, are just being torn apart right now as the Wolves push card.
Yeah, Cyclones playing a very strong defensive game, and you mentioned how they gave up the high ground, but at the same time, BBQ tried to win for it when he didn't have the ground pound either. So he just kind of fell on top of him and had to roll away. Hey, so it really left Holy Chub and Sweatpants behind, and that's how they got picked off. So now Delirious and C-Squared are going to try to have to maintain this high ground to keep their team alive next time as we engage with the mines.
Beautiful first engage. Eternal Flame is weak as the fight comes out. So far, the Wolves are looking for any eliminations. Sweatpants is going to find one onto the law, but they're going to have to start capitalizing on some other targets because right now the fight is even. Now the Cyclones are up one. They have just been a defensive force to be reckoned with because the Wolves don't have the target focus they need to take these people down.
Yeah, both the uncontested Reds and the Battle Mercy coming out. Delirious as the Brig is an interesting pick for this comp because it's a bit more high speed and she's consistently either being left behind or the last alive because she's the last one to get into the fight, as we saw her get picked off at the tail end. And now Sweatpants, overly aggressive, gets picked off really early on by the two supports wombo comboing her. I would hope to see the swaps come out here for the Wolves, as we already see BBQ swap over to the Winston, but they need to start using their ults because EMP's halfway there and the Brig rally can help them push into this fight, but they need a target prioritized. Watching out for the Gravitic Flux and the Amplification Matrix.
And so far, the Wolves have not found a way onto this high ground, at least one that has been valuable to them. And with 56 seconds, they really need to come up with something as their Monkey's going to engage. The target focus needs to be on point right now as the Cyclones are falling back, but haven't given up the high ground just yet. Even with a huge purple there, we'll be forced to, and they will lose King Swiffer in the rotation. As Eternal Flame's going to take out Shadow Soul off screen, that Sigma ult coming out is absolutely huge. This might be the fight that the Wolves need to finally take this first point. They have found the way. They have control of the high ground right now. The Cyclones have been so far unable to contest them, but Sweatpants really needs some help on card and is just going to win that duel. The remet kill, always love to see it. It's always extra special when you see one pop up in the chat. The Wolves finally take that point.
Yeah, Cyclones held them for much longer than they should have, and a great rock coming out from the law to deny the duplicate Gravitic Flux was a huge swing. And now even Holy Chub eating up the pulse bomb, denying that little extra value that Soup was trying to provide. Should secure them the cart, but now going into the indoor battles, Sweatpants is going to even have a harder time being indoors, but with Eternal Flame, it's going to be up to him to deny that high ground, so it's going to be a duel between these two players as, once again, the tanks go for the engage on the high ground.
And the Wolves definitely want to engage on the high ground. If you let the Cyclones have this high ground, you will lose the game. We've seen it happen to a lot of teams, and they're going to go ahead and fall back because they didn't have the people and the power and the full six to contest the now full team of the Cyclones.
Yeah, and huge pick onto Shadow Soul denies the EMP, which means the Wolves have to play a little bit further back because that EMP is a game changer of an ult, just denying all the abilities. And another huge pick onto BBQ means the Wolves once again have to go for another reset. They're just losing time here.
The biggest problem the Wolves are having is they're going onto the high ground, right? And then they're splitting up and not target focusing, so they just get pulled apart as a dive.
Yeah, we saw in their final push of that first checkpoint, they were together behind their tanks and were winning it. Sweatpants did have to fall back to get the car as no one was on it to 1v1. Soup on the Tracer did come out with a win, which allowed them to get the point, but now BBQ's on top of the plane by himself. Holy Chub's on the ground. Look how split apart the Wolves are.
And their Brig's going to go down for it almost. It looks like the Wolves are set up to engage with a huge EMP. That might be exactly what they need onto King Swiffer. And with Daydream down, that is a big Dragons in that room. There's no way the Wolves can escape. They're walking out into Eternal Flame on one end and Dragons on the other end, so they've just kind of been pinchered as Eternal Flame is going to get that very nice headshot onto C-Squared, and the Wolves are put in the very awkward position once again of how to approach the high ground.
Yeah, they've tried to kind of split commit it, but I would love to see a swap off the Brig, as she hasn't been able to keep up with them whatsoever. C-Squared at least being on the Ana can snipe from across the map, but that means that the two tank players need to start putting more pressure onto Eternal Flame, who's been consistently taking down C squared again and again because they're just having to sit there exposed with no shield or anything. And just the hail of fire going onto that doorway, the Wolves have yet to really find an opening to contest this high ground, as we've been talking about. And with Sweatpants already dropping down to half health just from some rotation poke damage, they need that pocket mercy from Delirious.
BBQ was forced to wait on the engage for a little bit longer because of all their abilities coming out. But now we have hard engaged on the high ground. Everybody has their abilities. Both teams are even. This could be the fight. Ults are going to be the big determiners here in this fight, as both teams are just in an all-out brawl with each other on the point. Sigma Ultimate's going to come out. The Law is unable to stun him out of it. Daydream gets the res onto Eternal Flame, however, leaving the Cyclones up in this fight. Maybe Sigma Ultimate can cinch that a little bit further for the Wolves, and they definitely do, with Delirious going down and out. Is just a solo Ana seeing what she can do.
Yeah, that's the same problem we've been seeing from the Wolves. The 4 members go and engage, and the 2 supports are left behind and unable to heal their team, so the front line falls apart so quickly. And by the time the healers come into the fight, it's over and they get eliminated, just buying the Cyclones that much more time. It was just a huge error of maybe communication of, okay, we're going in, healers make sure to keep up, but they were unable to. Being both a Brig and an Ana, they're so far behind that as soon as they rounded that corner, they had no line of sight, no heals were coming out, they got eliminated.
And the Wolves, their coaches have stated that they're working on these communications and trying to get everybody in the same place at once. So it does make sense that their dive is feeling like almost 2 or 3 parted, right? Because you have the tanks each doing their own thing. So there's the 2 parts, and then you have the supports further back trying to do what they can to support. And I think a Lucio would benefit the Wolves greatly if they'd like to continue running this comp.
Yeah, having that higher speed. The Mercy for Sweatpants is finally going to come out, but now that they're on defense, they're going to have to watch out for Eternal Flame on this Ashe, who's always going to be trying to land either the dynamite to burn them out of the sky or simply just snipe them down, and then they immediately have to get aggressive and deny the res. So that's the cooldown they're going to have to be watching out for. But also, BBQ on the Roadhog and Holy Chub on the Sigma is very low protection for your team. Yes, you do have the pharmacy up in the sky, but if they go down, you're having to rely only on Shadow Soul to hold back the team as the sole DPS remaining. It's going to be a hard fight, especially with Cyclones going with their own dive. But this time bringing a Symmetra and the teleport. A good boop off, too.
Sweatpants has been able to scout them out coast and has just spammed 35% worth of ult charge into them, and with Daydream going down, the Wolves are still approaching because the Cyclones are going down.
Pushing with no heals is a very ballsy play, as they are rightfully to retreat here. Buys them that much more time. A great pick on to Soup. And Eternal Flame even trying to pick down Sweatpants, and he gets the pick on to him. That brings out the res, so that means no res for the Echo with the Mercy combo. Sweatpants doing very well in this Pharah. That's where you hope to see the Law on the D.Va really try to target prioritize this Pharah in the skies, because you have to win one of the two sides of the ground game or the skies to get that leg up. And so far the Cyclones have been going for the ground game, but unable to protect their healers.
Rocket Barrage is coming out. Sweatpants is in position for it, especially as the Cyclones approach the high ground. D.Va Matrix is going to stop Sweatpants from getting any more eliminations, but the res is immediately going to come out after that, which is exactly what we're looking for. And then Daydream's not going to let Delirious res, which is absolutely what you should do as a Mercy, by the way. And that was another high ground push by the Wolves that was completely circumvented, and now their tanks are just going to get staggered.
Yeah, I mean, props to Delirious for at least getting the res up even while getting shot in the face by the Mercy. He has even Soup picks up Shadow Soul, just buying them that much more time, but the 1v1's going to happen without the Pocket Mercy and the res. Perfect timing on the res coming online, but that was the checkpoint uncontested because they had wasted so much time getting back.
Huge dragon, but you gotta think it's maybe a little bit too late here as the fight is already engaged. And ultimates are being committed, but the point has already been taken. So at this point, both teams are just trying to win the fight to maybe take some space here on second point. And so far, that fight looks like it's gonna go the way of the Wolves.
Yeah, Cyclones, after losing multiple members, I would definitely say overcommitted the self-destruct, only picking up one onto Sweatpants. hands was unneeded, especially since you threw it on top of the plane. A bit of a miscalculation there on the side of the lot. But a solid regroup coming in here. They need to start protecting their healers as the Ana has been picked up again and again.
Big Hook, Big Sigma ultimate tanks are definitely carrying on the side of the Wolves, and the Wolves still have the high ground advantage, so they're able to just, even as their tanks drop, just rain down infinite amounts of damage. If that Mercy gets the res in front of the Roadhog, I am upset. The Cyclones have still just been able to do this because the Wolves they're playing two different games. Roadhog is off doing his own thing, and Sigma dropped to the low ground and is trying to see what he can do, but so far hasn't been able to find a whole lot of anything. And they're just going to C9 off the point.
I mean, they had the pressure applied from Bob. They tried to throw it on the amplification matrix to deny, but they, as you were mentioning, they were just so inconcise of where they wanted to push or even try to hold for that matter that the Cyclones just allowed the cart to push all the way up to the objective and get it, I would say, almost for free in that final fight, because we saw even at the tail end, Mercy flies in, reses Soup on the Echo, and they continue the push as BBQ was on the high ground directly above them, doesn't even look down and walks away. So huge, possibly communication if you choose of either not being able to hear the res, which I highly doubt is the issue, or maybe just his team not calling it out of, they're resing directly below you. You hook him, that cancels the res, that's huge value. Now they're down 2 members, both a support and a DPS. I think the Wolves could have won that had that happened. I
will also say, to the benefit of the Cyclones, there was an Ashe immediately looking at the Roadhog, camping that, trying to offer their Mercy some assistance. And, you know, sometimes it's scary to look down as a Roadhog, look at the Ashe barrel, so I will give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. However, something that you touched on a little bit, you touched on how the Roadhog was away from everybody else trying to do his own thing, and that was very, very consistent. There was never really a time where, or not very often, where both of the tanks were in the same place doing the same thing. And then the healers would usually go for the Sigma as opposed to the Roadhog. So the Roadhog was just off by himself and not able to get a lot of value, even having the high ground advantage on the Cyclones. Do you have any next thoughts on our next map that will be Eichenwald, we're told, for this best of 7 show match?
I mean, it's definitely going to favor the 2 aerial DPSs that we've been seeing. I mean, both the Echo and the Pharah of Sweatman's getting a ton of value early on and was able to swap off towards the end, but he was the only one who swapped, whereas the rest of his team was kind of just stuck with it because they didn't have that much time. They did have one clear team fight and reset, but they didn't adjust for the indoors. So hopefully here in Eichenwald, especially for the first point, we know Cyclones can run Symmetra. I expect them to run Symmetra here on first point, especially if they're attacking. On defending, she still works, isn't ideal. We've seen some great Hanzo play, so I want to see that return because Hanzo excels on Eichenwald so well with how well he can control the high ground and the ground game. We saw a little bit misuse of the Dragons, I would say, because he cut off the one rotation on second point of indoor for Gibraltar and then immediately held the second door where they had to exit, which was a good play, but he did not get the eliminations from the Dragons we typically want to see. And this time, Dark bringing out how both the Doomfist and BBQ on the Reaper, they are looking to brawl. They're even bringing out the very traditional Ryan and Zarya. I expect Cyclones to be looking for blood here, and they need to prioritize Baptiste above all. You take him down, Immortality field down, main heals down, Daydream has to come off Eternal Flame. That frees up Eternal Flame to be taken down. Cyclones need to have that target prioritization on point.
And Dark is actually Doomfist is going to hard engage, cause some chaos in the background that Soup will take it. Soup is actually going to take advantage of Dark going into them, and the Cyclones are forced to rotate back, down a member already, and they're caught out in the rotations.
They got aggressive and they had the Lucio speed, but Delirious got picked off immediately and quickly followed by C squared. That is the end of the push right then and there. And then the fact that they couldn't even retreat due to Eternal Flame with the Wombo combo of Daydream being that pocket Mercy, they had no chance. So clean fight from the Wolves on the back of Soup, getting that first pick onto Delirious. Where I hope to see them repeat it again, and on the side of the Cyclones, make sure to cover your butts. And that's exactly what they needed to do.
Soup is down 1. The Wolves have to play a little bit more conservative here. Eternal Flame is still looking for that barrage from tower. The Cyclones are going to rotate indoors, which might be a little bad, especially as that barrage. He's looking for that one. Oh! He's going to get Cassidy stunned out of it. The Cyclones knew he was looking for it, and they took him out.
BBQ is player of the game for that single push alone. First taking down Soup, secures the backline, denies the barrage, and gets the elimination. Now eliminating Soup again, continuing their aggressive push forward exactly like they should. Just remember to keep one member on the cart. You don't want to see 9 that hard. Okay, they do have the Lucio there, thankfully. And a pick onto Swifter just buys them that much more time.
The Cyclones have set up in this castle, and both tanks have gone down. So it'll be up to both of the DPS to see what eliminations they can get. But honestly, walking in 3v4, not going to work out for you. The Cyclones got split and collapsed upon in the castle.
Yeah, had Dark had that Rocket Punch cooldown on his side, he definitely couldn't have gotten elimination there, but this is where we want to see the Wolves capitalize and get all the revenge that they possibly can. Take that space and deny the card pushing any further than it can, but Sweatpants could have taken down Eternal Flame there, but it would have cost him the Shatter, so good restraint on his part, but this is where we want to see Cyclones have that target prioritization and pick up at least one of the tanks or a support here.
Wolves do have the high ground advantage. The Sigma ultimate is going to come out. Kept on to 4 members, but the High Noon's going to come out. High Noon gets 1, but ultimately as BBQ goes down for it, not very good. Sweatpants, poor guy, just going to get booped off the map and go around. Actually, that doesn't even register as a boop. So the Wolves are still set up on this high ground, especially through the benefit of the res. Cyclones will have a difficult time approaching with Brawl.
I do think that was a planned jump off the edge because it's better to suicide off the edge than feed them a little bit more ult percentage. So I think it was a good choice by Sweatpants as he was the last alive. But losing Dark so early on, just pushing in by himself without even the bubble to protect him, just waste that much more time on the Cyclones clock. Yeah, they have 3 minutes, but they have yet to push past really the gateway so far.
Sweatpants is looking for a big shatter. It will be difficult as long as the Wolves maintain the high ground.
Yeah, and they need either Dark or BBQ to get a pick here to give them the leg up. And that shatter into the shield is not how you do it.
Walking right into the supercharger as the Gravitic Flux is going to come out. So far, this is just a brawl. The Wolves are going to hard engage with the barrage. Pharah will get taken down, and the rest is immediately going to come out onto Baptiste. So actually, the Wolves are winning this fight, and they still have the sustain to set back up on that high ground again.
Yeah, Cyclones definitely overcommitted with the ultimates, but the swaps coming in as they are needed. Delirious on the pig, and they're going back to what they know and love of Sweatpants on the Windstick and Delirious on the Briggs. He squared on the Ana. Should work for them. They just need to have a way to contest this high ground, and BBQ on the Echo can do it, but no Pocket Mercy going up against a Pharmacy Wombo combo. He's gonna need all the help he can get.
The Cyclones don't, so far, have a way to engage on the castle. And with the swaps of the D.Va and Winston, they are trying. They know they need to get control of the high ground, but they're going to have to coordinate their dive in. And Soup is spamming, making that a little bit more difficult, especially on your Ana in the back. As Soup is still unable to find anybody, is gonna stick the Briggs, so that's a trade, and if you can trade with support, that's usually very good. And it looks like the rest of the Cyclones are in on the Wolves, but not together, but it does not matter. Sweatpants is still gonna get the individual elimination onto Baptiste, which might spell doom for the Wolves if they take down Daydream as well.
I mean, the solo Gravitic Flux onto Diana is value gained as that main heals down, as the Echo was even going back to try to save them. So the Wolves bring it back.
Both healers are down. The Law is just still the last remaining member of the Cyclones trying to see what they can do, which is ultimately not a lot. The Cyclones had the approach to high ground. Their hero swaps really helped them approach that castle in a way that Ryan Zarya couldn't before.
Yeah, the Winston just being able to capitalize, going back and forth as well with the D.Va, as you touched on the tanks, just really holding the team together at the moment. As they do lose the D.Va mech, she'll be able to charge that up fairly quickly, and a huge pick on the BBQ gives the Wolves that leg up as they're regrouping.
Primal Rage is going to come out to boop one member off the map. That's always exactly what you're looking for, but somebody's got to get Sweatpants some help, and then they're just going to go down anyway. And that is a full-on a wipe for the Cyclones. The Wolves have been able to redefend. Hopefully with their comp, they want to set back up in Castle.
I mean, the Wolves lost some heavy hitters on their side of King Swifter and Daydream to the solo Primal Rage of Sweatpants, but at the same time, that's your main tank diving in, whereas the rest of the team did not dive behind him and got taken apart, with the Law doing phenomenally on the Sigma right now, getting a lot of those picks. So I would hope to see the Wolves kind of target prioritize him down, especially since he's getting close to that Gravitic Flux that has taken down their Ana twice now.
This a little bit feels like the Cyclones back to square one as they are re-attacking this castle. Echo is stuck. That is not looking good for them. That is their main DPS down. Nano's going to come out onto the Monkey, and the fight has dropped to the low ground as ultimates are going to be committed, and huge purple is going to come out and get the elimination onto the Baptiste, which might be what the Cyclones need to push this card. And the Gravitic Flux is going to come out as well. We're not quite out of it just yet. The Law is in your backline on your supports, trying to see what he can do, but now the Cyclones have their respawns coming back, and the Law is in between them and the fight. A little bit of unfortunate positioning there is going to lead to the Law getting eliminated, and a huge boop is going to come out. This fight is looking pretty scrappy, but I think the Cyclones have it.
Yeah, going to try to go for the last minute comp thump for the Wolves to try to just brawl them out on this final checkpoint. They have time to regroup, but they need to get on it now here. So we see Soup come diving in.
And it looks like with the Reinhardt on the cart, this brawl is in the favor of the Wolves, but this is their last fight, so they really need to try to do something, get King Swiffer some help. They're still living on the screen, we see, with 66 HP we last left them off at. Daydream's going to go down on the Baptiste, not what the Wolves are looking for. That's a fight lost.
Yeah, no Daydream, no main heal. Ernie's doing his best to try to hold it together as he gets the elimination onto secondary tank. I think they're still able to contest it, but now they're just having to throw their bodies on it, and that's the end.
Ernie just let that happen at that point on that Lucio. Looks like Reinhardt is actually still going to recontest, so there hasn't been one big decision made for the Wolves on whether or not we're going to contest this. All the members have individually different ideas, it felt like.
Yeah, Sweatpants doing exactly what he needs to, is go back to spawn, change things up as you are indoors. Now, the D.Va can stay as she's been getting a ton of value and is getting much closer to that self-destruct that she needs. So Cyclone's looking to shape up very well here with Sweatpants and BBQ, and now Dark even changing things up. Going into both a Tracer and Cole Cassidy, they need to get a pick here.
I don't think King Swiffer looked out that Cole Cassidy there, as that fight was just a hard brawl, and the Cyclones ran right in and were immediately unprepared for the amount of damage that came out that fight.
A bit over-aggressive on the side of Holy Chubb, committing both the self-destruct, and then as Baby D.Va running to the face of Cole Cassidy, saying, like, I can take you. Great trap, though. Gonna take down Soup and continue to push forward, because Soup was just so far behind enemy lines, trying to come back and cut him off.
Ooh, Big High Noon is going to come out. The Wolves now have a fight here, especially as they're up now 4, now 5 that we all see off camera. Wolves won the brawl. Now they want to push up to this next corner.
Yeah, so now the Wolves are going to have to play around this amplification matrix to hold back the Cyclones' next push, because the Cyclones don't have a single ult to answer it. If they can charge the sound barrier in time, that might help them, but at the same time, they're going to have to line of sight it, and only having 10 seconds remaining, and the sound barrier used too far in the back, it doesn't benefit his team.
We get back into the fight. Amplification Matrix is going to come out. Wolves holding the corner very, very strong. Get a couple of eliminations. Eternal Flame's going to go down. That's most of their damage, but they have more than enough to clean this fight up, especially with respawn advantages.
Yeah, even with no members surviving, that will be the round for the Wolves, I would say, because they held them at checkpoint 2, and that was such a rough sound barrier. Yes, it did keep Ernie alive and came back to help his team in the end, as he wasn't needed as much because they protected their main heals as they should, but the Cyclones, I would have hoped to see get the elimination onto Ernie, because he was on their main heals the entire time, as we can see from his POV.
The point of a Lucio sound barrier is usually to keep the team alive. In this case, it was to go Battle Frog and eliminate the Baptiste, and honestly, you can't be very mad at a Battle Frog. Baptiste is the one elimination that you can get and have it be acceptable.
Very fair, for sure, and even the amplification matrix was thrown down before he got eliminated as well, and it helped swing the fight in their favor. So the Wolves, with a fantastic defense, now headed over to attack, bring out the Pharmacy again, as they should, and going up against the Sigma Orisa combo is what the Cyclones should pull out against a Pharmacy combo, especially on defense, having the double barrier to just deny as many rockets as they can. However, going up against a Rein Zarya who are just going to roll right past those two shields. It's going to be a hard fight, and now even bringing out the Symmetra to burn you down and the Mei to slow you down, Cyclones are going to need to keep them at a distance if they want to win this team fight.
So BBQ and Dark really need to win the battle before King Swiffer and the Law are on them, so it'll be up to them to see whether or not they can do that, because there's not a lot you can do as an Orisa if the Rein's on you.
Yeah, it's going to be get the elimination onto...
Oh my gosh!
The
You
teleport
can do
over the
that!
roof!
Holy crap!
Play of the century coming down from King Swifter and lands on the
That's
BBQ
insane!
no less.
Eternal Flame is going to get that elimination as well. King Swiffer just goes charging right in, pins the Pharah midair. Wow, I am still reeling as the Wolves are just going to win that brawl on point off the back of a play that literally no one was expecting.
From that single play, if you're not the Cyclones both reeling from it and immediately going, all right, we have to expect the unexpected, because that came out of right field and everyone was just like, we were waiting for left field. What do you mean? Like, it blew their minds, and huge props to the Wolves being able to pull that off. That's first checkpoint within the first 30 seconds because they were on the point and the tanks hadn't rotated in time.
King Swiffer is taking space, will be forced to back out because of the Baptiste and Ashe eliminations. So actually, even though they took first point so quickly, they didn't take Castle, so that all that space is getting taken from them as they're forced to retreat.
Cyclones definitely winning the ground game here, as you mentioned, taking back the castle without the Wolves able to recontest. This is where you want to see them head through the building. It'll deny a lot of the poke that the Cyclones are gaining right now. But now Eternal Flame onto the Widow. If they get the pick onto either BBQ or Doc, that's a huge leg up for them in this coming fight.
And it looks like the Cyclones are still holding the castle, doing a lot of spam. The Wolves don't really know what they're doing yet. Some of the members are rotating castle. The Law's going to get the elimination, which is pretty nice. But Soup is still on cart as a solo Mei.
Especially going up against a Pharmacy and Ashe, Mei is an interesting choice here, to say the least, as an interesting wall goes on. And a shadow that lands onto no one.
There's the rotation through the castle. Lucio's barely going to live. The Wolves are together. They are collapsing on the Cyclones, and the Cyclones are left to fall all the way back to doors there and hope they can maybe do something. The Wolves are still all on cart, as they should be, anticipating this barrage.
Yeah, BBQ's been looking for it for a while, but after the Amplification Matrix came out and got the elimination on Delirious, he had to drop right out of the sky, pick up the health back, and now picked off.
Both teams are still trading pretty equally right now, though I would say the Cyclones have a better leg up in this fight, especially as King Swiffer is going to turn around and retreat.
Yeah, they were down one, lost both heals as Daydream finally gets taken down, and now Delirious, even with the res, buying the Cyclones that much more time to deny the walkbacks from their teammates. Now even having a huge ult advantage. I want to see them at least match the Wolves with the ult economy. They're going to have to be calling out that Graviton Surge coming out, because they don't have a D.Va to eat it up. It's going to be all eyes on Sweatpants to try to eat it up, but that's definitely a huge mountain to climb.
Bob brawling in the room. King Swiffer just forced to do nothing but hold shield there. Is forced to take a lot of spam, and that's fight over for the Wolves in the castle.
Yeah, close range Bob getting a ton of value.
Oh! King Swiffer's gonna take BBQ. The pins of this man have been insane.
I think that's also just on the fault of BBQ of he rotated all the way around of like, let's pinch a Reinhardt who has not charged yet, and then immediately gets charged for, what, the third time as a Pharah? You should almost never be on the ground, and that is a revenge barrage if I've ever seen one onto the face of King Swifter.
King Swiffer has been hyper aggressive, and when his team is all there to help him out, it works wonders for them. But in this case, the rest of the team, some of them got eliminated in rotation, and so by the time King Swiffer was able to hard engage, not only was he walking into barrage, but didn't have everybody else.
Yeah, but now going into this next team fight, the Wolves are even across the board when it comes to the ult economy, as well as Eternal Flame on the Soldier 76, Sights coming online, and Shatter. I would hope to see the Wolves kind of wait for Shatter to come online unless they can get an amazing Graviton Surge onto at least 3 members of the Cyclones. And without having high ground, they're not going to be able to do so.
The fight is still beginning. The Cyclones have control of the high ground, and with a huge sound barrier that members of the Wolves are going to sustain, they're trying to make the Cyclones come to cart, but there isn't really a reason for Cyclones to come to cart just yet. Now there sure is, as Baptiste is going to go down, as well as Soldier 76. And this fight feels like a textbook example of why you need to knock them off the high ground before going to card.
Yeah, the huge advantage has paid off with Dark getting elimination after elimination. No less with the Dynamite just burning them alive. We've touched on it so many times. The high ground determines how you win the fight. They try to hide behind the cart the best they can, but the Wolves were unable to even get the pick onto the Orisa, who was just fighting them in front of the cart. So as they continue to just have split target prioritization, unable to really secure one or the other, even where they were pushing, cost them that team fight. And now with a minute remaining, they only have 1 to 2 fights remaining if they can get it clean cut fast enough.
This castle is one of the strongest defensive positions to hold, and the Wolves are approaching through castle. Amplification Matrix is going to go down. Baptiste drops before Reinhardt and takes a lot of damage because of it, but then the Amplification Matrix is going to come out. Dark is no longer, they are down both of their DPS. At this point, now would be the time for King Swiffer to be aggressive, except they're down, and their main heals is going to go down as well, showing that Sigma's just proven me wrong here. It doesn't matter if the DPS are down, Sweatpants will make more than make up that damage.
Yeah, they got the elimination on the King Swifter really early on thanks to Dark from the Bob of the post-mortem Ashe elimination, and then just continued to eliminate them because they had no front line. They had to jump off the high ground and try to get to the cart in time, and that's where the bodies started falling. So now going for the next rotation of Sweatpants just standing there, of definitely just a power move of, I don't need my shield, you can't eliminate me from the high ground. Because they've been unable to have control of it. They go for the full rotation and unable to win the fight. So now they're going to have to go right into it.
Big shatter, especially on an Amplification Matrix, is going to eliminate. Daydream is the price. But the Wolves just come in through castle with the brawl, and the King Swiffer's on the hunt. But somebody's got to take Sweatpants down, or they might end up losing this fight. A solo Sigma is never what you want to leave.
Yeah, that should be the checkpoint for them. Surprisingly, the Cyclones did not rotate too high ground as they saw the Wolves rotating through the bottom of Castle and didn't really have much of an answer for it. They had Holy Chub right in their face, and they just rolled right past the Orisa. Exactly what you're supposed to do, which allowed them to win the team fight. The Shatter got off in the backline with the Amplification Matrix, which was huge for King Swifter, finally seeing him be able to land some good shatters. Now with the indoors, Cyclone's not really changing up a lot of their comp other than BBQ. Might cost them.
They've given up a lot of space holding this final corner. If they lose this fight, they lose the map because they didn't hold earlier. And as King Swiffer is now within walking distance, and the 4K bomb, I'm sorry, Mercy, there's not anything you can do.
We all love a battle, Mercy, but when you lose 4 teammates to a single ult,
against double shield.
Maybe,
and the Baptiste.
Maybe if it was old Mercy. If it was old Mercy, 5-man res, they're all fine.
Yeah, they would have been fine. Except the bomb came out onto 4 members through both shields and a Baptiste, and it feels like that is just perfect. They weren't ready.
I mean, as you touched on, they held the final corner when the cart final point was right there. It was a huge misplay, and they also probably should have swapped their comp for indoor ball. You know they're going to roll right into you with that Hein Diva, and you're just saying, no, Stigma Mercy can hold them at a distance. Yeah, it'll be fine. We have a Junkrat, you know, he'll burn down their shield. We'll get the... No, they have a Lucio. They're on your face. Fight's over. And, I mean, it's hard not to say that the Law won them that fight on their own backs with the self-destruct, but it was also just the rest of his team causing the chaos. They weren't hiding behind shields, got the elimination. So all around, Cyclones bringing it back, just dismantling the Wolves.
And they've done a phenomenal job. It felt like that was the closest map to being flipped here because this has been a relatively one-sided best of 7 thus far. I would say the closest we've gotten to things flipping is right now, because if King Swiffer didn't get that charge in, they wouldn't have gotten that point, but the Reinhardt was able to walk on them all. We are confirmed going in next map, which is Nepal, and this is match point. If they win this again, that is 4 maps, and that is the end of the best of 7 show match. Are you expecting the Cyclones to maybe turn this around, or do you expect this to just be a sweep?
After the harder losses that they have had on Control, we've seen them win team fights and be able to hold the point for not as much time as we would like, obviously, seeing as they haven't been able to come out of it with a win. But going into Nepal, where it could favor maybe BBQ returning to the Roadhog or something like that, because he does favor on Nepal. He works a lot better. It's a little bit closer range, doesn't need as much shields. But if, say, the Cyclones bring out the pharmacy that they've been doing the whole time, that's probably spelling doom for you, especially if you have the Roadhog in the situation and don't swap off of it. That was what lost them Gibraltar, is they stuck to a Roadhog who wasn't getting value, never got the whole hog that we saw, and just didn't swap off of it. I mean, I would hope to see them be a little bit more liberal with their swapping off. And now starting off with the first kind of not indoor, but like contained point, I still favor Cyclone's comp here because they have the Symmetra. But with the Wolves going kind of more of a King's Row comp is what I would call it at this point, of wall and maul. If they get the pick where they need it, they'll win the fight.
And the fight has fully begun. Walls come out. It's not able to split the team. Some turrets are coming out. This is just a brawl. Main tank's going to go down for Symmetra. This is fight in favor of the Cyclones at this point, unless they can get Sweatpants down. Making up the Sweatpants is, ooh, that charge might actually end up spelling Sweatpants doom there. Don't press charge, Reinhardt's Eternal Flame is also going to go down, and this is still a relatively even fight as both main tanks are down. It looks like the Wolves are going to rotate to point first, though, and because of this, their Mei is able to get the brawl and pick the fights that they want. They're down their Baptiste, which is less than awful, but they do still have Lucio, and now they have their Reinhardt back. Scrappy fight goes to favor of the Wolves.
Yeah, Cyclones are still trying to stay in it, even down Delirious now, but C-Squad has the Amplification Matrix back up, so if they get in the right positioning, they could swing this, but I think the Cyclones are going to back off, regroup, and go for a more concise push, as they should, especially with Holy Chubb dropping down to that half HP. Losing the Lucio definitely hurt them there, which is why they called the retreat, which is a huge win for the communication skills. But looking at the side of the ultimates, a lot of ults are at that 90% marker, so I expect them to get charged and probably even used in this fight unless a huge early elimination is called here or a huge pick.
Fight begins, Blizzard comes out, we're unable to see it right now. If fight's beginning just right in that doorway, the brawl is coming out. So far, nobody's been able to find any eliminations, as this is just a huge run. Shatter's gonna lay him out, but Wall's gonna attempt to protect the team. Amplification Matrix come out, forcing the Wolves to back off a little bit, but Sweatpants goes just a little bit too far and walks into the whole Wolf. King Swiffer does the same thing, and it feels like that's a trend with the Reinhardts just going a bit too far, and because of that, the Wolves are forced to give up a lot of ground here and back up and no longer hold that doorway.
Teams having a hard adjustment period going from Overwatch 2 to Overwatch 1 of we can go in a brawl and fight forever because I'm the only tank. No, there is a secondary tank, it seems, of just having the Reinhardt swing. No, they misplaced the wall just barely. So
and because of that, now the brawl is going to go in, but that is the Cyclones up several just because of a massive dragon. Soup is just going to use their own wall to try to get out. Not much you can do in the fight there, and that is point flip for Cyclones.
Yeah, I would hugely attribute that fight to Shadow Soul, surprisingly, because they used the double dragons in the backline. So even if the Wolves wanted to retreat, they were retreating into the dragons.
Yep.
As we saw from Soup's perspective, he had to use the Ice Block to survive it and heal up a little bit so he can continue retreating and throw up the wall. Also a little bit of a misplay on the side of Soup, throwing down that wall to start off the fight, but threw it at the wrong angle so they could still just leave out of the doorway. So I expect another great engage here, but
there's going to come out as well. Ooh, the Baptiste down. They're not even able to get the shatter. Reinhardt is already in your face and you're 100 HP. It almost would have been better to save the ultimate at that point. The remaining members of the Wolves are just cleaning up as the Cyclones run away.
Yeah, they got a ton of percentage, but with losing your main heals and main tank right after each other as the first two in the fights, you should be retreating already. Yes, this is control and you want to get as much percentage as you can, but you lost that fight so quickly that they didn't have time to regroup, so Wolves are bringing it back on Nepal.
Dark is seeing what they can do on the Cole Cassidy. Honestly, is still alive, which I am impressed by as the Law finally takes him out. The wall is going to stop the remaining members from getting on to point as the Wolves are just going to continue to clean up what's there.
Yeah, so as the Wolves continue their reign of terror and Law cleaning everything up, that's going to be map 1 of control for the Wolves. Cyclones having a very rough start trying to figure out kind of what they want to play, changing their comp like every other team fight really, because they tried to change it for that final fight with Sweatpants going over to the Winston. Didn't work out, so now trying to go out stall, went for the Wrecking Ball, didn't have enough time now, back to the Rhine. It was very split there, as we saw, even for that final push. Dark was pushing all by himself on the far left side of point from their spawn, whereas the rest of his team was all going to the right. So he got picked off. How surprised that he survived as long as he did which, unrightfully so, you should be able to collapse onto a single Cole Cassidy who'd even flashbang you, but Cyclones having a really split issue here, so hopefully they can bring it back here to take down the Wolves heading into map number 2 of Control.
And it looks like the Wolves are already on the point, forcing the Cyclones to come to them. Wall's going to come out, but not get any value really for the Wolves as the brawl truly begins on the side of point in the stairwell now. With that Reaper, we expect him to get a lot of value. That is almost fight lost for the Cyclones there. Your Reinhardt goes down, you can't push.
Yeah, and Dark, once again, huge mispositioning of he's behind the enemy team with main tank down and the rest of your team clearly retreating. So I hope that's not an issue of the Cyclones' miscommunication of DPS think they can 1v6 a team and continue the aggression forward. So Wolves just being able to capitalize, even build up the amplification matrix, pop it down here and deny the next push.
Brawl begins again as the Wolves are not getting the Cyclones a chance to recover. They're still going in with that amplification matrix, and they're not going to push all the way into their spawn, which is understandable, but they are holding this spot at the elephant with a dominating presence. Ooh, big
Shatter deny onto 2. Once again, that's the end of the fight for the Cyclones, losing their main tank and main heals first again.
And now's the time where you can push into spawn, and we got some of those eliminations just outside of their spawn doors, and they're still holding this elephant.
Yeah, rightfully so. It's the choke point, because if they go to the right, you can see that. If they go high ground on the left, you can see that and rotate further back. Soup is just waiting for wall go down, throw Blizzard again and again. You can already see the team communication of they're going high ground, and Soup immediately looks toward. That's something we haven't seen from the Cyclones just yet. Great wall to deny. I would have loved to see even the Blizzard be thrown down there as they're jumping down, and that's exactly what Soup does.
And the E was not there, so the brawl is going to happen off the back of that Blizzard as a couple eliminations are going to come out. They're going to have to chase, the Wolves are going to have to chase the Cyclones into that room and on the point here. And that's exactly what they're doing. All the members of the Wolves have backed up to that room,
Okay.
Not even on the point anymore, so poor Soup just gets left by themselves. But it looks like that is the price for a one fight for the Wolves.
Yeah, Soup got a little cheeky there of emoting while the Diva was still alive. It was just like, all right.
All right, you deserve that a little bit.
But now the Wolves only have the 2 ultimates to the Cyclones 3. Cyclones just need to get onto point as there's only 10% left. This is last fight territory. And with the amplification matrix so far back and the elimination on the King Swifter, they have a chance.
The Wolves will really have to pull it out. They are making a desperate run back for the point of there. Now down there, main tank, they have been ulted. This is maybe fight flip for the Cyclones unless somebody can pull a miracle play from the Wolves here. And, you know, with an elimination on the Sweatpants, that's kind of a miracle, especially as King Swiffer is back in, but both his healers are down. Shatter's going to come out anyway. The Wolves are not giving this up. They're relying. The rotations for the Wolves that fight were phenomenal.
Yeah, they got the pick onto the Rhine, then they lost their main heals, then they took away main heals. It was just back and forth, but the Wolves having that better individual level, getting more eliminations, having more concise shot, that's in communication and ult usage. They just came away with it being the better team in that situation. Cyclones had a lot of good fights, but were unable to close it out in a lot of those key moments.
And going at it alone can only go so far. Ultimately, if you want to increase your chances of success, you have to level up your teaming skills. We just saw that in the last play by the phenomenal rotations made by the Wolves. They backed up when they couldn't sustain anymore, and then they got back in when they knew they could take the brawl. And you can see how talented these Esports Tower players are, and Esports Tower also really takes the time to create teams of very well-matched teammates. And I'd like to do a shout-out to the coaches, and if those watching haven't checked out Esports Tower clubs yet, you should. It's a fast track to rank up. And with that, our best of 7 show match is going to go 4 maps all the way of the Wolves. So it feels like what we really learned from that show match is I think the Wolves have more of a solidified team dynamic. What do you think?
100% agree. I mean, you can see that just from watching the players' perspectives of any time the rotation was coming through for the Cyclones, the Wolves instantly knew where from because their front lines were communicating. Even when King Swifter was the first eliminated in that final team fight and they went for the high ground push, the Wolves were there to match them every single time, and they were still able to capitalize of, all right, Swifter's almost here. We can hold out this fight even down our main heals and DPS because he has Shatter. Diva Bomb came out for that final fight. It was really well communicated. So I think Cyclones still have a lot of work to do, but they came out of it winning a couple team fights. So you can see that they're blossoming as a team. They just need that little bit extra time to really tighten those issues up because it cost them a lot of these maps.
And, you know, team dynamics is something that every team, even at the highest level, struggles with. So it's really no shock that the Cyclones are still working on that. And we expect them to be able to kind of like come together and learn to do that. I mean, all of these teams are new, so it's expected. Some of them are having a little bit of growing pains there. But that's not all the Overwatch we have for you tonight. We do still have 2 more Esports Tower matches within the Week 4 Rumble, which is back to Overwatch 6v6, and we will get to all of that after this break.
Here are a couple lessons I've learned over the years. Friendships come in all shapes and sizes. And always buckle up. Seatbelts save lives. That's a rule we can all live by.
Visit NationalGuard.com to begin your Guard adventure.
Hello and welcome back to this week's broadcast of the Esports Tower Rumble in Overwatch. We are broadcasting live from the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena, and you just saw our best of 7 show match, the Wolves versus the Cyclones. It ended going the way of the Wolves, but we have more Overwatch for you here tonight. I'm your host, Colby D'Angelo Alloway, and joining me to call all of the action is Brenner Bearlad. And what are we expecting from match 2? It will be the Tornadoes versus the Riptides, and we've seen these teams before. Are there any specific comps or playstyles that you're expecting to come back as we transition back into 6v6?
I mean, with first map being Lijiang Tower, I would hope to see the Sim Brawl come out, as that is kind of like the quintessential Lijiang Tower map. Unless we start on something like the Shrine map where Symmetra isn't always the go-to, maybe for the first push to get into the window and then onto point, but then, of course, you have to watch out for the Lucio, as we've seen so many plays. So, but thankfully, Bagel's not in this game, so maybe they might have a chance. We'll have to wait and see, but also would love to see a Bastion at some point just to see if they can get upset on point at the lighthouse that it is. I don't remember the names. It's fine. But not the indoors. Surprisingly, we've seen a Pharah work on the indoors too many times of Lijiang Tower.
That's
and
true.
I'm curious to see if they'll run it here just because we've seen very good pharmacy plays in the prior match coming out from really both sides, even with the Echo. So I would expect maybe both some aerial play and some hard sim brawl coming out.
And before we get into the matchup, we want to take a moment to congratulate all of the Esports Tower Club members who have graduated from the clubs and have been offered scholarships across the country. Over the last 3 months, Esports Tower Club members have received over 1.6 million in scholarship awards. These students have not only worked hard on their in-game play, but they have worked hard academically and have earned these scholarship opportunities. We could not be more excited and proud to see all the amazing opportunities these players are getting. And you were talking about a Bastion. This is the Tornadoes, so it is 100% likely that we could see a Bastion, and that Bastion will need Doc's keys to the game, which in Overwatch is to never take a fair fight, which means take fights in unexpected places when they're unprepared, and tempo, tempo, tempo. And Doc's keys to the game are presented today by Esports Tower. Score pro advice at esportstower.com. Improve your game sense, improve your team play, improve your performance under pressure. You'll get matched with great players and professional coaches to help you rank up. And you know, we've seen Bonesaw on the Bastion, and he definitely takes all of these fights in unexpected places on flanks nobody expected him to go from. How do you play tank with a Bastion?
I mean, are they making him that in Overwatch 2? Is there something I don't know? But playing tank as Bastion, like his ultimate, or like literally tank?
No, like how do you play around and with a Bastion as a tank?
I thought you were saying he is the tank. I was like, well, his ult is, so I'm confused. But around him, I mean, you have to just play in front of him, and then he'll do the rest of the work. Just don't block his line of sight. Just be the shield that he needs. Especially with first map being Oasis. Here I thought it was Lijiang. That is my fault. But already setting up on the high ground immediately and denying the ball. Burning him down to half is a huge step forward. But he wasn't able to eliminate your Ashe, so how much value did you actually gain? But it's going to be up to the Riptides to just collapse onto Bonesaw, but he has both the heals behind him, so tanks just get a field day.
And Bonesaw definitely did early setup on that hacker, so I think that was their key to success.
Yeah, they had those rotations, and as soon as he hit the bounce pad, he was in turret form, laying fire down to deny Frozen Phoenix from even contesting the high ground. So now, Riptide's having to regroup, and a Roadhog into a Bastion is a very risky play, because if you miss the hook, you're dead. So all eyes are going to be on to Fulcrum to land these hooks. Ooh. But picking up Gambler can help you.
Bonesaw got way too aggressive there as that fight began. We saw the elimination and the flank, and Joe is also going to get taken down, but this fight isn't done yet. His mind is going to be committed. The Tornadoes were super dominant in their first Overwatch Rumble, and they're looking to be just as dominant now, which is why they're pushing into the enemy spawn.
Yeah, rightfully so. I mean, Phoenix put down the mines as quickly as he could. Also, kind of ironic that both Wrecking Balls are named Phoenix. There's Frozen Phoenix and then Phoenix Wrong.
You're right. That is going to get a little bit confusing as we start talking about ball players here.
Yeah,
Mango's going to get the elimination onto Mapsy off camera. Frozen Phoenix. No! Was kind of soft engaging there. That wasn't even really a fight. It feels like most of this isn't a fight. It's just scrappy individual members getting eliminated here, even as Ball and Reinhardt are going to charge all the way into the Riptide spawn.
Yeah, but surprisingly, the Riptides were able to kind of rotate around as not Doofus was able to at least scout out some of the members and then quickly take them down. But Tornado's just establishing dominance of you're not allowed to leave your spot unless we say so. And Gambler's getting really close to getting that Shatter online. Riptides with Joe on the Sombras just trying to harass is unable to do so, obviously, as they're a lone Sombra.
I really would have liked to have seen the Nano come out, and now this fight is really become a fight. The Riptides are pushing with a full 6 members onto the remaining 3 of the Tornadoes, who are just forced to back up into the remaining members of their team. And actually, the Riptides aren't even going to get to touch.
Yeah, they were too busy picking up those last 3 members. They needed the Lucio speed boost to get to a point in time, but they didn't play time well enough, and Tornadoes just kind of had a field day with them, just holding them at their spawn. They had both Frozen Phoenix and Joe trying to contest point for the Riptides, but they were unable to ever secure it. They got it to like 80%, but that replay is golden for Pando.
I hate to see the hamster get hit by the car.
As hard as it is to see, it is also the most satisfying. It is like perfectly calculated of if I boop him, the car will hit him and get the elimination, because he was going for the rotation to get onto point. So Tornadoes had literally every line of sight just block or could deny the rotations. I hope to see them do it again here with now Mapsy on the Genji.
And hard engaging as Brawl into Orisa. I mean, there it is. You wanted them to be just as dominant this map. Look at that. They're up 2 and still pushing. They might even be able to hold the spawn door as this fight is going to come to a pretty decisive close.
Yeah, Bonesaw will be able to just be that artillery / mortar piece that they need to burn down any shields that they're going to come out with, because they're running double shields of a Ryan and Orisa, which don't complement each other the best, as one's kind of hard. Another one!
It's Gambler is gonna throw himself off the map. Maya's been huge on this Lucio, but the Tornadoes have not stopped any of their aggression. They're down to Reinhardt and still pushing into spawn, and they actually have managed to split the Riptides at least a little bit.
Bonesaw, you lucky, but...
And it didn't last for very long, but when you get hit by a flashbang and still live, you got to count yourself at least a little bit lucky. The Tornadoes are back in this fight. They do have the Reinhardt. A huge boop is going to come out onto 2 members, and that is fight saved by Pando.
Riptides, you got the elimination onto the charging Reinhardt of a boop. You got your Wrecking Ball eliminated by a boop. Why are you playing near the edge? That where you can get booped off by these god tier Lucio players.
And at this point, the Tornadoes are back in their spawn, even though they lost fights, and even though it's Gambler charged himself off the map because of a well-placed boop. We're still in your spawn. The Tornadoes have not let up on the aggression even a little bit, walling themselves in spawn just to live a little bit longer. Oh no! Mapsy's gonna deflect that back into Illusion, and that's a feels real bad. The Tornadoes are once again down their Reinhardt, but that has not halted their aggression even a little bit.
Yeah, Phoenix even swapping over to the Roadhog to just push them back that much more. It seems the Tornadoes are just going for all environmental eliminations, or just you shoot us, we shoot you because Genji deflect. That's the
Baptiste on the hook.
That's the end of the push, and you got 4-man shattered.
Actually, the Tornadoes are now down 1 here, down their Reinhardt once again. So this might be the push for the Riptides as long as they can eliminate Phoenix.
Ooh.
And it looks like so far they haven't been able to. A Shatter's going to come out and finally get it.
The solo Shatter onto the Roadhog to deny him, but Bonesaw's just picking up elimination after elimination. Illusion bringing out his own Deadeye. It's back and forth. At least they're on the point now.
The Riptides are making a very desperate attempt and a valiant effort, and they have no healers with which to make this push. And the Tornadoes are just still throwing all members, and they're trading. They're taking this fight. The Tornadoes actually, they might have this.
There's no reason why they shouldn't, for sure, as it's just the lone Frozen Phoenix on the Wrecking Ball keeping him on, and the Nano even comes out to deny it that much longer. Tornadoes, even being down multiple members in a fight, continue to hold on by just white knuckle holding onto the point, saying this is ours and you can't have it. Like Bonesaw and Mapsy, the lone DPS players that were still alive the entire time, getting elimination after elimination that the Riptides just had no answer for, or just couldn't get elimination, because by the time that they started getting the DPS pressure that they needed on them, healers were back, tanks were back, and Tornadoes just swung the fight back in their favor.
The Tornadoes held in. So most teams, when you're down your Reinhardt, you back up. That is exactly the opposite of what we saw the Tornadoes do. They were down their Reinhardt, and they're like, You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to honor his memory by touching the enemy's spawn doors. And then they would lose maybe a couple in that push and then gain a little bit of space in that room there and like touch those doorways that lead you to even like see the point. But then by that time, Reinhardt's back and the Tornadoes are back on it almost full force. And what is the way to circumvent just that level of aggression? What can they do?
Bastion. I mean, if they're pushing your spawn, just sit and spawn and hold left click until they back up, buy you that space, let your 5 members push forward, swap out, and then continue that push forward. Because then at least you're building some sort of momentum, and they're like fearing of, they have a Bastion, let's back off and play behind a shield. Especially when they have a Roadhog who can't hook you out of spawn, so then you can keep applying that pressure. Yeah, they had the Genji, which is a problem, especially after denying a Deadeye and then eliminating you with your own Deadeye. Oh, Winston could have helped of literally leaping out of spawn, buying your team some time to push out of spawn, maybe get the elimination on the 1-2 members who got overly aggressive. Getting +1 or +2 helped them get to point in the first part, which shows you that it works. They were just unable to capitalize and actually hold the point, because they were unable to eliminate the last 2 or 3 stragglers of the Riptides that were just harassing them. So they need to be able to collapse as a team and say, here's our goal, eliminate this person. Go and execute. They just haven't been able to because they've been so split. So here now on Dorado, with this being a best of 3, they're going to have the best defense or best attack of their life to deny the Tornadoes and bring us to a map 3.
Do you think they'll get first point? Do you think the Riptires will get first point against the Tornadoes as we go in here? Phoenix going down first, I think, is a good omen for them.
It's a possibility, but with how scrappy the Tornadoes are, even being down now 2, or no, the Riptides being down 2 members.
Reinhardt is charging in your spawn doors, hoping to get some eliminations. He's not able to find any so far. Moira's on the high ground, safely there to kind of like help her Reinhardt. They get him back out. I think the Tornadoes, they're very coordinated in their aggression, because you saw that Reinhardt charge in and they were all immediately with him.
Yeah, Gambler doesn't really favor the aggressive comp of the Tornadoes with a double sniper. They just have to play in the line of sight. He does get eliminated there, but trades out. Panda, you're a support player. Why do you have 2 eliminations back to back? Riddle me this.
Battle Moira, as the fight still begins, the Tornadoes are playing a game of keep away with the Riptides, a very dangerous one with Fulcrum, as they will be taken weak, given a little bit of overshield. Echo's going to peek the Hanzo, and actually it's not Doomfist that ends up taking them down just because they couldn't get that peek. Mapsy's still looking for your Ashe, but the ball on him is going to distract him a little. He's unable to get that elimination, but the Tornadoes are still now, Gambler is back on the Monkey instead of the Reinhardt, as this fight doesn't even feel like a fight. They're just in their spawn doors. This isn't one single fight. This is spawn camping.
This definitely feels like a quick play match, because if you look at the team composition of the Riptides, they have a sniper with an Echo Mercy and a Zenyatta. So they don't have a main heals. They have a dedicated pocket healer. They have a kind of tanky sit-on-car Sigma, and then Frozen Phoenix on the Wrecking Ball, who just goes around and has fun. So they are not playing together whatsoever. It seems that they want to do kind of a pseudo like 3-and-3 push, but they need to go for a 6-and-6 push here because the Tornadoes are beating them out on individual skill.
Almost gets both of those headshots onto the Cypher, but not quite. The spawn camping has abated a little bit by the Tornadoes as the fight begins with a Monkey in your back line. Pando's going to get the first elimination onto Maya outside of our sight lines, and the Tornadoes are still in their spawn, and Gambler will be punished for it once again.
I mean, the fact that Mango has to bring out the Transcendence just to keep his team alive from mines that they also then had to commit on top of the fight, and now Bones on Mapsy pick up even 2 more, one of them being your supports and the other being a tank. Riptides need to get a foothold somewhere that isn't their spawn door.
Frozen Phoenix is back here trying, sneaking around on ball, seeing what value he can get. Hopefully, he wants the spawn camp Pando, I think, is the grand master. No? He's just going to run away.
He's doing the strategy that I do in Total War, which is only works against the AI, which is you send one person to distract and see how many members you can pull back to give your team an opportunity. But you're against a real team, not AI. This is not going to work because your team can't even leave their spawn.
And the fight is going to begin once again at Riptide spawn doors. Primal Rage is going to be committed. Bonesaw is unable to get the hook on the Roadhog and actually gets discorded and taken very weak, but so is Frozen Phoenix. They will be and Illusion Overwatch going to win the battle against Phoenix there on that Widowmaker. Frozen, it feels like they want this on them. They will be unable to... That's a... Ooh! Bonesaw did a fantastic job of recognizing my Ana needs help. Let me grab that ball.
Bonesaw also going from DPS to tank now, even bringing out the whole hog while nanoed. All right, we get it. He gets taken down though. All right, respect to Joe now on the Reaper. I'm just surprised we haven't seen the Wrecking Ball swap over to a Diva yet.
And at this point, the Tornadoes are still down members, but it is not stopping their aggression even a little bit. Its Gambler is still right in on this point with both of their DPS. Even if the mines aren't even going to deter them, he's still sitting on that point, just trying to get everybody. Oh my goodness, the Tornadoes are not giving this up for anything.
I mean, yeah, all the mines are taken out that were on the card, so he could just sit there and be comfortable, but now Fulcrum bringing out the Gravitic Flux just to try to close out the fight. Gambler keeping his team alive right now as two of their members are just nowhere near the cart here.
The Tornadoes are still not giving this up, and with the pick on the Bonesaw, they might actually have to. That is Bonesaw unable to be in the fight. The Tornadoes are still down one, but they're not rotating back. They are sticking to their guns and waiting for the Riptides to come to them.
Finally, the Diva will come out, though, at least for the Tornadoes, and quickly swapped off.
I think the Tornadoes are slowly but surely going to win this fight unless the Tornadoes can get some eliminations.
Tank down, but you lose main support, so wasn't really that much of a gain as now Joe's down to 12. The card can only heal you so much.
Trading is actually in the Riptide's advantage, but they were unable to get Frozen Phoenix on that cart to really take advantage of some of those trades. So that is round one. Riptides were unable to get first point.
I expect Tornadoes to win this in 1 to 2 team fights at least, just with how dominating they've been able to hold it. The Riptides needed to change something that wasn't their DPS, or their support line did need to change, but their tanks were just unable to hold the front line for them, or were literally anywhere else but holding the front line. Like, multiple times we cut over to Frozen Phoenix perspective, he's nowhere near the car trying to deal with rotations as a Wrecking Ball. You can do that when the card is moving forward and you have secured it. They hadn't even had that. They hadn't secured their spawn doors. He just left them behind and said, all right, let's try to disrupt the rotation of the members. We do get eliminated, or maybe try to pull attention away, but Tornadoes are smarter than that. They just say, you're a solo Wrecking Ball. We have the cart. You're not going anywhere.
I do also think that Fulcrum in particular on that Sigma struggled to even make a front line because everybody's getting eliminated behind him before the fight can even really begin.
Yeah, you can't go Orisa in that situation because you are getting run over, which is the one thing that you do against an Orisa. I would have loved to see a Diva to try to combat kind of the hectic defense that the Tornadoes had coming in from every angle to try to just even contest the high ground at that point, but the Riptides on defense here are all going for the roof, but unable to scout out. The Tornadoes are all rotating over to the high ground to completely wipe them out and just push the cart forward.
The Tornadoes are effectively down one. The Reaper has been sent back into spawn. If the Riptides chose this engagement, they would be up one. But instead they're going to try to solo eliminate the Reaper. They are able to do that. Now would be the time to go in, and it looks like they are, but not Doomfist is going to land a glorious anti-nade.
Tornadoes did exactly what they've done on defense. The defensive team has become the attackers because the attackers took the high ground from you and you didn't even contest them, and look how many eliminations they're getting from it.
And the Riptides just completely gave up their high ground, were unable to contest it, and its Gambler is just sitting on the point, and actually the Riptides are just torn apart. They went after the Solar Reaper, which is understandable, but it took them 15 seconds to do so, in which the Tornadoes were just setting up on that high ground. And now that they have it, and the point, the Riptides have an uphill battle trying to take it.
Riptides were also hiding on that rooftop and didn't see all of the members of the Tornadoes just rotating directly underneath them because they were crouch walking around. Riptide was bringing it back though, able to at least eliminate Gambler, but knowing the Tornadoes, they're never out of the fight.
And Joe's going to go down and get a couple of eliminations for the side of the Riptides there. That might be their push. Going to get the other one. Tornadoes have been knocked off cart.
Riptide's finally able to bring it back when they're playing as a team, which is what they've needed to do this whole time. And Illusion getting a great hack, denying the heal from Bonesaw on that Roadhog as well was phenomenal, but now they have to watch out. And a great EMP.
He comes up and immediately gets slapped.
Two.
But those two are going to get immediately eliminated for the side of the Riptires, and Illusion is still alive.
Riptide's definitely showing that they have the better team play when they are all together, whereas the Tornadoes excel on that individual level but have yet to really group up and have a concise team push. Because if they do, I expect them to win it just like that. But they have yet to do so because they're now falling to the same problem the Riptides had last match, playing super split and just getting picked off one by one.
I will say that they're getting many more eliminations when they're trying to pick the one-more battle. The one-on-one battle, but Overwatch is ultimately a team game, so they really need to group up.
Yeah, they're just kind of six-man ball, getting the eliminations everywhere they go. As soon as they find one member, they collapse on and get the elimination. But now that the Tornadoes are finally coming back together, they might have a chance.
Bonesaw just tanked that whole Death Blossom as Roadhog there. Not Doofus is going to get the elimination. This is the Tornadoes as a group. They're on a team. They're a team. They're doing things together. They're getting the eliminations together. And Joe is being forced. The remaining members of the Riptides are being forced to retreat, but they don't have the space to retreat. They need to get right back in the fight immediately. And it looks like they're trying to do that, but Maya's going to get eliminated. And now it is just Joe 1v6 to see what they can do.
He'll be able to stall for a second.
A couple seconds as long as Wraith form lasts.
Yeah, he also had 34 health, so literally like a rock would take him down if you threw it at him. But the Riptides had a solid defense because the Tornadoes were playing pretty terribly of just saying, everyone go have fun in your 1v1s. And then they finally had a concise team push and win the match, which shows you that as soon as once it's team versus team, Tornadoes take it. When the Riptides were team versus one, of course they win that, which is how they were able to last as long as they were, because Tornadoes were just saying, we can win 1v1s, but they started playing together. So Riptides, hard loss, but you had good moments.
Want to be seen by expert college recruiters? Talk directly to esports industry insiders like pro athletes, team general managers, and game producers? Then join the club. Esports Tower players get insider access to industry insights, and with our featured rumbles, recruiters are taking notice too. It's a great way to score exposure if you're looking to start your path to pro or land a collegiate scholarship. Excuse me. Reach out to them at esportstower.com. And that game, I will say the Riptides held much, much better than we were expecting or giving them credit for, especially against the Tornadoes, because there were a couple of team fights that the Riptides just won, but for the most part, it was the Tornadoes just going in as a single person, maybe trading, and then getting eliminated. And that is not all the Overwatch we have for tonight. We do now have the Tornadoes versus the Everest. This is a rematch and a little bit of a grudge match. First map, I'm told, will be Control, Lijiang. And what are you expecting, before we go to a break and get into the matchup, what are your initial thoughts on the Tornadoes versus the Everests?
I mean, as you restated, it is a return of the rivalry that cost them the last championships. So, and the Tornadoes now just coming off of a pretty dominating win against the Riptides should be feeling very good. And the Everest now going up against their former team members of Bonesaw, not Doomfist, who've been definitely huge playmakers for the Tornadoes, should be looking out to counter them. They know their strategies pretty well, what type of heroes they might play. Bonesaw on the Roadhog is something we haven't really seen that much of, so it definitely threw a lot of people for a loop, and it worked out for them, surprisingly, because Roadhog hasn't really been in the meta for a long time. So the fact that Bonesaw is being able to bring him back into the limelight is really surprising, which might throw the Everest for a loop. But hopefully we can see the Everest kind of come together and be able to beat out the Tornadoes on a team level, not so much the individual level, because we have yet to see any team be able to do so. And since Overwatch is a team game, you win the team fight, you'll be able to take it. But if you're playing split apart, Tornado's going to have a clean sweep.
And we will see all of that after this break, and then we'll bring you Tornadoes versus the Everests.
Visit NationalGuard.com to begin your Guard adventure.
Here are a couple lessons I've learned over the years. Friendships come in all shapes and sizes. And always buckle up. Seatbelts save lives. That's a rule we can all live by.
Hello and welcome back to this week's broadcast of the Esports Tower Rumble in Overwatch. We are broadcasting live from the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena. Last week in Week 3 in the 5v5 Overwatch, the Everests got upset as the Tornadoes took their championship, and now we are back for the Tornadoes versus the Everests, and I'm Colby D'Angelo Alloway, and here to help me call all of the action is Brenner Bear Ladd. And so what strategy are the Everests? So the Everests lost, right? After being the reigning champions. So in order for them to try to take back the Tornadoes, what strategies do you want them to run?
Well, kicking things off on Lijiang Tower, I would expect them to run the Sim Brawl Bastion, get on point first, hold it, be that dominating team play, because they need to play as tightly and as concisely as they can to take on the Tornadoes, who have been the dominating individual skill team. Having the Everests had their roster change up, and now two of their best players now on the side of the Tornadoes has definitely cost them. But hopefully after having a week to play together, regroup, learn how they can play together as a team, we can see them come back and win that team level, because they were always good on the individual level. But as I mentioned, they lost two of their best players, of not Doomfist and Bonesaw, now on the Tornadoes, which has cost them. So losing the individual skill is where you need to improve the team level, which is something they were good at. They just couldn't be bested at the teams who were there currently. But now that the roster has changed up multiple times, new teams have been formed, it has hurt them, but I think they can come back. So team play is where I want to see them excel here. And Sim Brawl is a great way to do it, because it forces you to play together and have that communication of who's symmetric targeting, who do we need to focus, collapse on that person.
Are there any individual players that you'd like to highlight the skill of?
Outside of Bonesaw, not
Outside of
Doomfist.
Bonesaw. Okay.
I mean, they've always been our two go-tos. We've talked about Daydream a lot on the stream of how she has been that quintessential support player, always being that go-to pocket mercy and really excelling at it. We even saw that play of her denying Delirious, who was mid-res, because she realized how important it was to deny the res.
Yep.
Still couldn't do it because the res went through, but got the elimination. So,
which is the important part.
I mean, as a Battle Mercy player, I always love to see it. So those would be my go-to. Of the Everest players, I would have to wait and see because my memory is not the best as it is fried from finals that are currently going on, but we'll have to wait and see if the Everest will be able to kind of dethrone the new reigning champs that is the Tornadoes, and Lijiang is kind of the go-to map to kick things off on.
And so our match 1 ended up being the Wolves versus the Cyclones. It was a best-of-7 show match. It did go the way of the Wolves. They had a dominating victory, just swept all 4 maps. Match 2 was if it's possible, even less close, as the Tornadoes just absolutely took it out on the Riptides, and now we're Tornadoes versus the Everest. We're expecting this to be a much more even matchup than some of the other matchups that we've seen tonight from the Esports Tower Rumble. And another quick reminder, we are back to 6v6 still in this Week 4 Overwatch Rumble, and the Tornadoes and the Everest have a lot of history. So we will be going to Doc's keys to the game, which will specifically help all of these players, which in Overwatch means never take a fair fight, which means take fights in unexpected places when they're unprepared, and tempo, tempo, tempo. And Doc's keys to the game are presented today by Esports Tower. Score pro advice at esportstower.com. Improve your game sense, improve your team play, and improve your performance under pressure. You'll get matched with great players and professional coaches to help you rank up. And with that, it is time for our Week 3 Grand Finals rematch between the Tornadoes and the Everest. Will the Tornadoes continue to dominate? If the Tornadoes win, they are guaranteed a spot in the finals for next week, which would be the Week 5 Rumble.
Yeah, and this is only a best of 3, so if the Everest do end up losing map 1, that's all the pressure in the world that they're going to have on their shoulders to try to win map 2 and take us to a map 3, which is something we have yet to see tonight because it's all been clean sweeps from either team that has been the dominating force. So now taking a look at the roster of the Everest, not a whole lot of names other than Panda Squad have been on that original roster.
Panda Squad is on the Baptiste. The brawl is going to begin in this server room. And we have Junkrat Symmetra versus Junkrat Genji. You gotta think the Everest have the better brawl in this room, and they do. The Tornadoes are forced to back out of this fight. No eliminations have come out so far. Right as I say that, Bonesaw's gonna get one onto the Symmetra, and now the Tornadoes are able to move back into the server room, which they are doing. They haven't found any eliminations so far, but they are still up one, and immediately after that, Panda Squad, that is fight cinched for the Tornadoes here.
Yeah, lost main heals. They did lose their main tank from Phoenix Wrong right after that, but they immediately got the re-engage onto ALW. So solid trades for the Tornadoes. Boneside now on the Junkrat roll, but looking for Tyre, especially being on the outside right behind the window. He could easily throw it out here and get 1 or 2 member in that backline. Instead, he's just going to pick up the Junkrat.
And this fight has reconvened in this room again. And because the Tornadoes don't have the comp for this room, but because they're taking it after they're already up a member, it is going massively in the Tornadoes' favor, and the Everests might need to adjust their strategy.
Yeah, I'm very curious of what Mapsy's POV has been like. Has he just been in the backline harassing the supports as he should be on a Genji? Or has he just been with the team fighting nonstop, trying to apply his damage and get that blade up and ready? But Bonesaw with this Tyre is looking for Panda Squad here, and if he gets it...
Nope.
Oh, good Flame Strike. ALW kept his team alive as they're sitting in their spawn, as the Tornadoes have always done.
And now the Tornadoes are going to back up, back to this choke point, a major choke point. The Everest will probably have to use ultimates if they want to reconvene. The fight is still going on, though. Even as the Tornadoes back up, ultimates are being committed, and members are being eliminated.
Ooh.
The Tornadoes now have the space to be aggressive. They have the eliminations, and Bonesaw's doing exactly that, sitting directly outside of spawn.
Yeah, huge value gain for Pando. Oh, just being utterly aggressive against the Everest. They just haven't had the shields that they need to block it. ALW tried to hover the Roadhog, but that's not going to happen here.
They got him.
Thankfully, Panda Squad is able to recognize Bonesaw, having been a former teammate, of just saying, all right, he's up to some shenanigans. Where is he? But a shatter like that will destroy the push in a second.
And the Tornadoes still are just holding the Everest. Everest haven't even gotten to touch this point at all. Even first fight, where Comp says they had the advantage. They went down one through the Tornadoes' exceptional rotations. Honestly, this feels even less close than the last time we casted the Tornadoes versus the Everests.
Yeah, I mean, if both teams have improved, Tornadoes have just kept their edge on top of the Everest, and it's been showing here with Mapsy on this Genji POV, right as a beautiful Shatter's coming out from Phoenix Wrong, just set his team up for success. I believe that landed onto 5 of the 6 members, if I saw that correctly, so that fight was over as soon as the Shadow was landed, because all of the Tornadoes were close enough to just capitalize and collapse on those members. I would have loved to see the Everest probably bring out the Winston much sooner to deal with that Genji, who was harassing him as much as he was.
So we'll see if they'll be able to counter the Tornadoes picks here. It looks like no boops are coming out as no sim TVs are teleported onto the point, but there's a lot of damage coming out and getting spammed in from the sky here. The Tornadoes are just kind of rotating around, but they're all focusing more or less the same targets. They can all help each other, and Triplet will be first blood in this fight to Bonesaw on the Pharah. Now the Tornadoes are kind of dividing and conquering and seeing who they can get, even as the Everests are driven back to the point.
Yeah, I mean, if that's not the title of their strategy is to divide and conquer, I don't know what is, because that's what the Tornadoes have been excelling at nonstop. First they pick out Triplet, then Panda Squad, now KJ, now back onto Triplet, who has come back, but you're not safe outside of your spawn, as evidence in the last map.
And the Tornadoes definitely are pushing in, not fully committing past this doorway just yet, but a fight could honestly break out at any second here as the Tracers duel in the room, and it looks like Mapsy's actually just, gonna get caught out on that Tracer. That is Tornadoes down 1 as they back up. Ooh, not quite. They're not quite backing up. Bonesaw's still in. They're playing a little bit respectfully of the enemy DPS, but they're still in this fight, and they are getting the eliminations. Just give me a second, I have to reload. That is the Tornadoes still just going to take that fight, even though they started down 1.
That was a little bit personal from Bonesaw. Oh, there's a Diva retreating. Here, have a barrage to your face that you can even eat and deny, but just was unable to. Ooh, Bonesaw just very much having a feel that even without the Pocket Mercy by their side a lot of the time, and also the fact that Panda Squad was body blocking Pharah rockets for Avian, who's trying to get the med pack. Questionable decision being made.
Tornadoes are down 2. This is the first good fight the Everests have had this map so far. Bonesaw is getting lasered out of the air. Will get taken out. That leaves its Gambler in a very awkward position without their Pharah. They will be able to get the res. However, the Tornadoes are still down, and they can't really commit to this fight with nothing more than a Farmer and a Baby Diva.
Yeah, able to win the 1v1 of the Tracers for KJ. I would hope to see the Pulse Bomb come out just to try to continue their lead forward, but they're winning the fight, and they finally cap the point, getting that 20% up. So Tornadoes getting a little bit overly aggressive there definitely cost them. But I suspect that if they regroup as 6, they'll be able to win this fight.
He's going to come out.
Huge playmaker.
2 members, both of the tanks of the Tornadoes. Now it is the Everests attempting to hold the Tornadoes in their spawn, and with the elimination on a not Doomfist, they can do it, but they're not taking the space just because of the amount of damage Bonesaw is doing on that Pharah.
Yeah, huge barrage coming out, able to be mostly eaten up by the Diva, but the Pulse Bomb able to land on Deniza as well as the self-destruct deny the res. Everest should be able to hold him here.
And the Everests are wisely not pushing past this archway. They know what the Tornadoes can do. They're respecting their space to a certain extent, and the Everests still have a massive ultimate advantage.
Yeah, this is something they need to utilize going into this next fight, especially with Avian playing a little bit cheeky and very far forward. They need to just take down this Ana. They should have hacked that Ana much earlier. They just let the Nana go out uncontested.
And instead, they're going to just try to outright eliminate the Ana with after lasering down the Mercy. The Tornadoes are now the ones having a difficult time touching the point, and most of it is off the back of Avian on this Sombra, I want to say. And I also want to highlight Panda Squad on the Moira, just because that laser has been a deadly beam in the sky here as Panda Squad is going to go down. The Tornadoes are still in this. We thought they were out. They are still committing members to the point. They are still sitting on it, and with 96 and climbing, the Tornadoes have to.
Yeah, sticking to the Avian POV of just teleporting back and forth between this med pack, even hacking the Baby Diva to deny the remake as she does have it online, but is unable to secure the elimination. Now Bonesaw picking up, that's main tank down. Tornadoes have a chance, now +2.
Especially as the remaining members of the Tornadoes get onto the point, just as Avian had to disengage. They are going to come back with EMP. We'll see if they're able to do anything, but no, they're just going to get eliminated. And honestly, an EMP would have been huge for them there. 63 and climbing now for the Tornadoes.
Yeah, I do think Avian holding on to the EMP was both good and bad. They didn't have the members to probably get an elimination and swing the fight in their favor, but also would have been good because it could have kept you in the fight, built up. Well, they were already at 99, so it would have just kept you in overtime, so more bodies would have been thrown on the point, Tornadoes would have built up, so good that you held on to it and didn't use it. Ooh. But with a pick like that, you're running out of time. There's maybe time for one team fight left if they're able to regroup as 6. The Everest brought it back, but now dealing with mines in an enclosed space, that should be the end of it.
Collapsing on them in that room did a great job, and now at this point, Avian can't really do anything as the solo Sombra on the point, and it's unlikely other members of the... No, I'm wrong! The other members of the Everest are absolutely getting to this point, but Bonesaw has the luxury of just being able to fall back and spam from the outside.
Probably needed that EMP as soon as she went onto the point, as the 2 tanks were right behind her. Mapsy able to close out with 2 more.
Oh.
Nice play, self-destruct to take down Triplet, who was wall riding up above. Tornadoes having a rough middle part for that map, but able to have a strong start and a strong finish. Just lost the middle as the Everest really brought it together toward in the center of that match, but at the end they just fell apart.
So I think the biggest thing here is the Tornadoes have their rotations down, and the Everests don't. We saw that the Everests had the aggression and had the individual skill and just kind of like the playmaking potential to hold the Tornadoes at their spawn, which is no small task, by the way. The Tornadoes are the team that initially upset the Everest's massive win streak, and some of their members are the reason the Everest had such a massive win streak in all these Esports Tower Rumbles. So the Everest really need to learn when to go in and when they need to get out. I think that's the biggest struggle that they're having. They stay sometimes just a little bit too long and go down too many members, and the Tornadoes absolutely capitalize on that.
I also think it's a bit of an issue of possibly the self-confidence to win a 1v1 against a member of the Tornadoes, which is something we saw from Avian's perspective on that Sombra. They just watched the Ana by herself, no teammates in sight, nano somebody, and just sat there stealth. Like, you could have easily hacked and eliminated. It's just an Ana, and you're a Sombra. You should be able to capitalize that, and then just let it happen. Waited for the Winston to come flying in while Primal Raged out of the team fight to help you eliminate the Ana, and then go back in. I would say that's a pretty glaring issue for the Everest, and what definitely cost them, because that's when they were absolutely excelling at holding the point, but that's where they started just falling off. So now heading over to Escort, I would hope to see them be a little bit more aggressive here and tighter knit as a team.
And the Tornadoes have absolutely no fear, so the Everests need to match that if they want to win against the Tornadoes in this grudge match. Bonesaw is getting a lot of spam, and actually an elimination almost comes out onto that Mercy. Not quite, though, but Avian's going to get the elimination on not Doomfist. The teams are even right now. This fight is a little bit spread out just because Bonesaw's in the sky, but it looks like it's going the way of the Tornadoes.
Yeah, with Bonesaw picking up the 2 healers.
Not quite.
That might be it. Bonesaw having to retreat for their life, even get into the line of sight of his Ana of not Doomfist. I mean, the Bonesaw not Doomfist Wombo combo is tried and true that the Everest really need to start splitting apart if they want to try to come away with this, because they can take down its Gambler. We've seen them do it multiple times, take down that player. But also look at how far the Everest have just pushed up the card.
Oh my gosh. And actually, KJ and Avian are both new DPS for the side of the Everest, and they've been doing a phenomenal job, particularly Avian. Its Gambler is going to get punished for the res, but Bonesaw is still up in this fight, but is not doing a lot of spam. Pando just going to have to back off that point.
Trying to hold back with 9 HP, unable to do so. The whole hog, able to take down at least Avian, but the cart was still secured as he got taken down by the Dynamite. Mapsy with the deflects, stalling for as long as he could, but Tornadoes, they're falling into the issue of kind of that quick play of, you know, we're great individual players, so let's just keep throwing our bodies at it, you know, trading out for at least one, but they have the Mercy res. So Tornadoes group up as a 6v6, you'll win the team fight, then probably win the map. That way you just have to hold them for 4 minutes and 30 seconds. But as soon as Everest get a pick or two, they win that fight and capitalize on having the numbers advantage.
And because both the Tornadoes and the Everest are on the high ground, ALW is going to knock them all off, taking away the advantage that the Everest had. And they are even down one. The Tornadoes, excuse me, the Tornadoes are a massive disadvantage in this fight as they try to re-approach the high ground, even down one. I think the res is going to come out, be relatively uncontested, but Pando was just left alone in the Sigma ultimate in the sky. Blade is not getting the value that they need. Correction, it's getting one person, which is honestly pretty big in this fight, as back and forth as it is. Panda Squad going down, it's going to be not very good. The Tornadoes, I think, actually have this, just because of those 2 eliminations there, and Bonesaw rounding it out with the 3rd.
Yeah, they should be able to hold him here at the 2nd checkpoint. Was kind of waiting to see ALW dive off the edge to reset with the rest of his team rather than feed ult percentage, which is possibly a bit of a miss. Okay, there he goes.
Goodbye!
He still fed more ult percentage than he probably should have, but...
Style points.
I guess? Do you want style points when you're suiciding off the edge?
Jump off
you're
the
just
map.
wasting time that really the Everest can't afford to lose, especially when they're now going to have to defend against the Tornadoes in the coming round. So they need to get the car as fast as they can. And with a play like that from the Tornadoes, that could spell doom, and that's it.
That is down one, and that is honestly fight over. You are absolutely correct. That initial elimination on the Mercy, not Doomfist, is the price, however.
It was Mercy, then the Zenyatta, then your main tank. They're still trying to push the car, which is admirable, but they're not going to make it happen. Even committing their own pulse bomb to it was, unless you're swapping off, it was an overcommit.
And as we go back into this, the fight isn't really starting. Ball is just kind of running around. Bonesaw's going to get caught out in rotations there, however. So the Tornadoes will be down one next engage.
Yeah, Gambler trying to capitalize best on a Mercy with no aerials, just playing around Mapsy.
Ooh, big hook.
Great hook, should swing it.
Whole hog, he should have been in on that Mercy. Should not have let her get that res. Is going to try to get the elimination there. And that is the Everest that have actually been split because of Phoenix wrongs. Whole hog. It looks like they will be unable to eliminate the Ashe, but the Everest are still falling back anyway.
Yeah, with an elimination onto your secondary heals, and now ALW with being solo and with the anti on top of him, unable to heal. Should have been the end. Ooh, if he had landed that hook, that would have bought him another 30 seconds on this clock.
Almost. The Tornadoes are now going to set up on that high ground. The Everest will have to approach them. Both DPS are going to trade, and this is the beginning of the fight. Both teams are looking at that Mercy. That was very brave, and also, unfortunately, you're going to get punished for that. And now it's Gambler has the res that the Everest no longer have. That hook has just been on point, on cooldown, doing all of the great things. I would say that that fight was won for the Tornadoes off the back of Phoenix.
That was very personal, Mapsy, of the 1v1 against the Tracer, and immediately pulls out the blade just to eliminate Avian, and that was it. No other damage was dealt, but just to deal with the annoying Tracer, so.
Outside of spawn.
I know, it was very personal of aggressive Genji versus a defending Tracer, and just says, I'm going to ult you to get out of my face. Oh wait, she's just off the edge.
And that is why it's scary for a Roadhog to look at an Ashe, even if they are from the high ground. The trades have been even, though, as the Everest are on the approach. This is last fight, or second to last fight for the Everest, so they really need to get some big eliminations here, what they absolutely are onto both supports.
Ooh, the break
They
comes in
punish the
same
Genji.
day.
Pretty big. The Everest have a fight. They just need to be prepared for the Tornadoes respawns, which it looks like they were not, as Phoenix King is going to get some huge value.
Yeah, the whole hog really just denying the push from the Everest. And even with the Discord orb, he's able to just take no damage and keep his team in this fight, denying second checkpoint as Transcendence comes out.
Transcendence is going to enable them to retreat, actually. And after that, Genji is immediately going to get eliminated. The Everest weren't ready for the respawns coming out from the side of the Tornadoes. And as a result, these trades are coming out, and the Everest are slowly but surely losing this fight.
Yeah, this Ana all by herself should lose this 1v1 against Avian, but
Nope.
not Doofus is just that good, I guess, as the rest of his team's cleaning up the remaining members of the Everest. It's just throw your bodies on the cart, and that should be it.
First point went the Everest's way super quickly. Couldn't get there for second point.
Yeah, they just got stalled out again and again and again. Even when they were up +2, even sometimes +3 in that fight, they were getting held back by the Tornadoes, who were just winning them out on that individual level. Perfect example is not Doomfist against a Tracer. Most of the time, Tracer should be able to kill an Ana because she could never hit her. Whereas this time, it was the other way around of the Tracer could not fight her because she was just getting shut down by not Doomfist, which just speaks to the individual skill level of the Tornadoes, whereas the Everest have shown that they do have very good teamfight potential. It's just very hard for them to have a concise team push against the Tornadoes because they're always taking damage from every angle from this tiny little poke of Mapsy on the Genji poking your backline, which is why multiple DPS were taken out in rotations, and then supports would have to retreat and save them, like Panda Squad on the Brig. So Everest just having a real issue trying to have a clean rotation and team fight that stops, whereas the Tornadoes just want a non-stop brawl.
Walk me through the Tornadoes' attack strategy here with the Bala Hog.
I would assume it's very much the strategy they've been doing all map of harass as much as you can, split up the Everest, take those individual 1v1s, and that'll allow you to push the cart forward and win the fight, whereas the Everest need to stay as tight together as they can and not get picked off, and then they will win. They just need to go all out sustain here, whereas the Tornadoes kind of going for more of that pseudo dive of, you know, everyone pick your target, get the elimination, we'll win the fight.
Everest are being forced to give up the high ground as they fall back, and the Tornadoes are main and first elimination. That's pretty big for the side of the Everest. The Tornadoes will likely have to play more passively. They're not interested in that, and as a result, they're going to lose another member, and their Roadhog might just get cornered in that room. It looks like nobody's after him thus far. However, they're on Bonesaw in the back. How did he get there? They're on attack.
Soldier 76, baby. He's just running for days and still has yet to be even been taken down.
Leave him there. They're just going to leave him there as this next fight begins, and so far Bonesaw actually can't see the fight. Is going to get the elimination on the Zenyatta. That's why you can't leave Bonesaw in your backline. And it looks like that Mercy's just going to fly right through KJ. Okay. Oh my god, finally manages to get them, but gets hooked for his efforts. And the Tornadoes, despite going down first because of Bonesaw in the back, it looks like they're going to cap this first point.
The 1v1 of the century between Bonesaw and Panda will get helped out. Well, or no, it doesn't even get eliminated. ALW just has to back off.
But now at this point, the Everest have a recontest, and with that whole hog, that would be very difficult. And the Nano Visor coming out onto you, Zenyatta, onto your backline.
And that's it.
Play the game for Bonesaw?
Without question. And, I mean, come on now. Play of the game for not Doomfist. That was a beautiful nano.
Absolutely.
Which allowed him to deal that much damage and get the eliminations as fast as he did. But Bonesaw just continuing his reign of terror with the help of Mapsy. Just the three members that were eliminated first by his nano visor that came back, pushed too far forward, ultimately did cost them. So
no, he's behind them again as we get set up. It looks like
excels.
They need to either scout him out or eliminate him, and actually they're getting very, very close. Hopefully they communicated that he's there. It looks like it is. There was some follow-up damage. The Everest need to stabilize this next fight.
Yeah, KJ finally able to land some of his arrows onto it, but they have 5 ultimates built up. Everest, where we need to see ultimate after ultimate start coming out here because you're about to lose with 4 minutes remaining.
Well, that's down 1 there, ultimate. That's 1 fewer ultimate in their repertoire, but they still do have 4. With a massive purple coming out, they're down to now just 2 in the fight. 2 ultimates that they can use, even as the Tornadoes continue to push this. The Everests now have 1 fight, if even that. If the Tornadoes pick them in rotation, they don't even get it.
Yeah, I don't think they're getting to cart just yet. Finally, ALW is able to make it after the elimination onto Bonesaw. Now with the rally coming in, Everest have a chance if they don't get picked here.
Maxi is in your back line on the Everest. They might get picked. Doomfist is going to go down, giving the Everest a chance to win this fight. But the Tornadoes are not backing up on the aggression at all.
Ooh.
Goes for the health pack outside of their spawn with 25 HP. Of course gets punished for it, and that's the Tornadoes full reset.
Everest bought themselves a minute here, but they still have to hold for another 3 minutes if they want to take at least 1 map away from the Tornadoes. But now the night's been going. Tornadoes are trying to have another clean sweep here. But with rotations like that, Everest have a chance.
Going down to the Tornadoes are respectfully going to give the Everest their space. I think the Tornadoes just want to build up some ultimates and take the fight that they want to with their ball in their backline.
I mean, they've already committed 3 of the 5 ultimates they had built up, as Triplet hasn't built up his Transcendence once again. They do have the Double Dragon and the Gravitic Flux, so if they get the Gravitic Flux onto at least 2 members and eliminate those 2 members promptly, Everest should be able to hold them here, but they need to be calling out that Nano Visor, as it was such a huge playmaker last time, and there it is.
There's a Sigma ultimate coming out. Chum is Fum is trying to find the value for the side of the Tornadoes here. The Everests are going to go down. This is an even fight. The Tornadoes are still not dialing back from the aggression at all. The bomb is going to come out. They will be unable to get the elimination. Chum is Fun trying to do what they can on Sigma, but is not able to find any eliminations. The Tornadoes are just collapsing as a unit onto people, and now they're finally taking notice of the Sigma. And no, they've just completely ignored him yet again for other squishies on the point. The target focus of the Tornadoes has been phenomenal. They immediately just dropped Chum is Fun the second somebody squishy walked into their line of view.
I would have loved to see Chum is Fum swap off that Sigma so much sooner. The Gravitic Flux got some value, but he was not being the tank role where in the enemy's face, be the target priority 1, because if you don't eliminate him, he eliminates you as the tank like a Reinhardt does. So hard loss for the Everest there, because they had a lot of good final fights there. They held them for a solid 2 minutes on that final point, just like the Tornadoes were doing, but couldn't close it out.
And it looks like now with that, the Tornadoes versus the Everest, they will win. They will win 2-0 here. And you want to be seen by expert college recruiters, talk directly to esports industry insiders like pro athletes, team general managers, and game producers? Then join the club. Esports star players get insider access to industry insights, and with our featured rumbles, recruiters are taking notice too. It's a great way to score exposure if you're looking to start your path to pro or land a collegiate scholarship. And it actually looks like the Tornadoes are now the team to beat. It used to be the Everest, but because these last 2 matchups between the 2 teams have just been so dominantly in the Tornadoes' favor, I would say they're now the reigning champions here.
Yeah, ever since gaining the just behemoth power that is Bonesaw, not Doomfist, they've been able to reign terror. I mean, we've seen from previous Rumbles that Bonesaw has taken that leadership role of the team of calling outs as a DPS player, no less, which is an interesting feat for himself, but I mean, he's excelled at. We have seen him play tank a couple times like that Roadhog, so it's proof that he's kind of that good all-round player and able to lead the team at the same time, so understandably why the Tornadoes have taken that #1 spot, but the Everest are still one of the teams that you want to beat, because if they're able to win consistent team fights against the Tornadoes, just not the map, that still means they have very high notable skill. So that is something you want to keep looking out forward in the future, and especially for next week with the next grand finals coming up.
And in which the Tornadoes are now guaranteed a spot because they ended up winning this. Do you want to lead into the player of the game discussion? Who would be your go-to?
Not Doomfist.
Not Doomfist?
Because we always highlight Bonesaw, but not Doomfist has been the backline to him again and again and again. And as I previously stated, that was a great visor. But it is also just a visor where you auto-aim everything. And the Nano allowed him to deal that much more damage to get that quad and then continue his aggression forward. So they're my go-to.
And you immediately saw Bonesaw look for it, knowing not Doomfist is going to be there to support all of their efforts in eliminating the whole team. So I do think not Doomfist, even though they don't usually get the spot, they are at least a part of all of these plays here. So I think not Doomfist is a very safe bet and could be very likely be the player of the game. But I also want to highlight Avian from the side of the losing side of the Everest, because I think they also did a fantastic job. And it turns out both of us are just completely off base. It's going to be the law from the Wolves versus the Cyclones. And honestly, the Wolves kind of rolled, so that makes a lot of sense.
You have to highlight the off-tanks while we still have them. So, because heading into Overwatch 2, that's something that we've done even with our own Boise State broadcast of Kel, who's been able to excel. And now, perfect example of here with the law on the tank, on even the off tank and sometimes even the main tank role, just able to excel and keep his team fight in the game. The Wolves had such a dominating performance at the Cyclones and it was also a best of 7. So with how long ago we have casted 4 more matches, so it's understandable why we might have forgotten all of these key players. But at the same time, Eternal Flame, Dark, and BBQ, those 3 main players doing so well and highlighting the law of that quad Diva Bomb is what won them that map at that last moment. So understandably that the law takes player of the game here.
And the player of the game is brought to you by Idaho Central Credit Union, who believes a great player makes a team more successful, just like Idaho Central is helping members achieve financial success. The law is the Idaho Central Credit Union player of the game. And again, from that matchup versus the Wolves versus the Cyclones, they did a fantastic job. And the only reason we didn't highlight them is just because we've seen so many matchups after that. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up this Overwatch stream?
If you're playing against the Tornadoes, play as tightly together as you can.
Yep.
Because they will take you apart as soon as there's the tiniest gap in your rotation lines or even team ball synergy. So they're the team to beat, so we'll have to wait and see who might be able to take them down next week.
And with that, we are going to close out with our top 5 plays of the game. Congratulations to all of our teams for a very exciting start to our Week 4 Spring Overwatch Rumble. The Tornadoes seem to prove that they are the team to beat in this next Overwatch, as well as they've already locked in the Grand Finals again next week, which we mentioned. So we'll find out who will join them, the Everest or the Riptides. Make sure to join us next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard EST to see the thrilling conclusion to our Week 4 Overwatch Rumble. And we'll close out with the top 5 presented by the Idaho Army National Guard, who invites you to take your impressive critical thinking skills into real time. With more than 10 jobs offering a $20,000 bonus and your degree of choice paid for, the Idaho Army National Guard is the best team out there. Thanks for watching and have a good night.